After 5. Recording has started. So I will call the regular Ridgway Town Council meeting of Wednesday, September 14th, or September 14th, 2022, and ask for a roll call, please.
Council members EdX here, Gramley
Here.
Lakin here, Schuyler is absent, Thomas is absent, Mayor Pro Tem Meyer
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. Thank you. With that, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have an item for the consent agenda. Approval for use of streets around the school in Weaver Park for a 5K race as a fundraiser for Ridgway Secondary School cross-country program, October 8th from 8 to 9 a.m.
All right. Anything else? All right, duly noted. That takes us to the consent calendar. This is a bunch of things listed that don't need individual attention that we can approve all with one motion. There are a couple things on there that anybody want to pull off. I wanted to note how happy I am to see that Deb Overton has reached or completed her probational status and has now moved to permanent employment status. Deb's been a great addition to the team as she was years ago, and it's really great to have.
Hey, John, can you speak up just a touch?
Yep. How's that?
Oh, that's good.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? So moved.
Seconded.
Russ made the motion, Polly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. This takes us to public comments. Establish time on the agenda for the public to address council regarding any item not otherwise listed on the agenda. Comments limited to 5 minutes per person. We don't have, I think you guys are on the agenda. Anybody on Zoom?
Don't see any hands on Zoom.
If anybody on Zoom doesn't know how to raise their hand and wants to just, I think you can unmute yourself and speak up. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that if you have any comments. All right, hearing none, that'll take us to public requests and presentations. The first one is item number 7, proclamation declaring September 2022 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness and Recovery Month. Is Corinne on Zoom?
Unless Corinne is Robinson Waters, or I don't know how to say that name, that she's not on.
No, that's not Corinne.
Okay. I'm wondering if, since we're moving along, whether she's just a little late getting here. Why don't we table that one for just a second and move on to the next one, item number 8. Presentation on West Slope Community Education and Nicotine and Vaping Event, because I know Carolyn is here to present on that.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Dressler, and I passed out a few of the posters, and thank you very much for having them posted up here also.
It's in our packet as well, so.
I'm sorry?
It's in our packet as well, so.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. So this is, as far as I know, the first conference of such topic on the Western Slope. They tend to do more of this on the Front Range, but in partnership with the Department of Health, with the State Department, helping to fund the food for the conference. It is free for everyone to attend. It's 2 days, basically 1.5 days. So lectures, the 15-minute presentations that will occur on Friday are aimed mostly at adults, and it covers the broad topics of tobacco control writ large, including mental health and tobacco, which is some of the higher populations for people who use tobacco are those with mental health, substance abuse, LGBT, and lower income. And so the question is, how do we address that? Mostly of what I see around Ouray County is not white people who use tobacco or smoke, but Western Slope has one of the highest use of electronic cigarettes in the country. So the question is, what can we do about that? And then I just learned yesterday from Aaron at the 4-H Center that there was a lot of vaping going on horseback because apparently horses don't like smoke, so you can't smoke on a horse's back. Who knew that? But you can use smokeless tobacco, and now instead of smokeless tobacco, they were using electronic cigarettes. So interesting to see that in adults in a ranching environment. So for Friday is a series of presentations with free food, and the state said, oh, you shouldn't do that. People shouldn't come for the food. And I go, well, it is an incentive, just saying. So that's on Friday. And then on Saturday is aimed for the youth and only youth, because we want them to be able to discuss and talk amongst themselves about using nicotine addictive products and what do they think about how do we fix that. And locally, how would we fix that? So that is on Saturday from 9 until 1, but again, breakfast and lunch for them. So if you know any youth, it would be nice if they registered at that QR or website, but otherwise, if anybody just comes, we just would really appreciate the attendance, because I can assure you, the state is looking to see how many people attend for this. So are there any questions about it?
No, but I'll make sure I tell some Murray High School kids tomorrow that there's free food on Saturday.
Thank you. So I did speak with Susan Lacey and Todd Loki. And so they were putting the signs up in Uray. I know they're up in Ridgway, but
I know I didn't exactly read them and process them until just now, so I'm sure the children are the same way, so I'll try
Yeah.
to verbally.
probably, and it is an issue, particularly if they're found. What do you do for enforcement sort of purposes? So, we'll be talking about that too on Saturday. So a question, if there's no questions, then could I just ask, please, my colleague who's here from Washington, D.C. and from Action on Smoking Health, and one of the co-sponsors for the meetings. He's actually the national and international lead for Project Sunset. Would you listen to him for like 2 minutes?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you. Chris Bostic.
Welcome to Ridgway.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Chris Bostic, Action on Smoking Health. I'm the policy director, and Action on Smoking Health is ASH. We've been around since 1967. We were formed after the original Surgeon General's report on the deadliness of cigarettes, and we've been around ever since. As Carolyn said, I chair 2 steering committees, one national, one global, on something called Project Sunset. And the very simple goal is to phase out the sale of tobacco products, commercial tobacco products, not savory use or medicinal use by Native Americans. But this is something that was not even thought of 10 years ago. In the tobacco control community, the very word control sort of implies that there's some level of death that we can live with going forward, in spite of the fact that every NGO, including mine, has as their vision a world free from death and disease from tobacco. So basically, this is operationalizing the public health's commitment to ending the tobacco epidemic. And this, we're now getting some traction. When we started this 4 years ago, there was no example in the world of a jurisdiction that had phased out tobacco sales. But now we have several, even in this country. There are 2 cities in California that have completely banned the sale of tobacco products. Brookline, Massachusetts has done something called tobacco-free generation, which basically says no one born this century can ever be sold tobacco. So it's phasing it out, basically raising the age every year. And then there are 2 other cities that have basically put a freeze on tobacco retail licenses, so they can never be transferred. So as people die, retire, move, those licenses will disappear and eventually will become sales. And there is a bill right now in front of the New Zealand Parliament that will pass this fall that is going to reduce retailers by 95%, reduce nicotine in cigarettes to non-addictive levels, and also implement the tobacco-free generation concept all at the same time. And this is becoming a topic of discussion around the world. I started 21 years ago in tobacco control. My first day, they told me, don't ever talk about ending sales because we can't be seen as prohibitionists. But the time has come, I think. We've been fighting this for so long, and we've made progress, but it's easy in this country to think that we've solved the problem, but we really haven't. And there are more smokers tomorrow than there are today, and there will be more deaths tomorrow than there are today on a global level. So we have a long way to go, and we think Project Sunset is part of the equation. And if I may, for Friday's meeting, the other highlight of the meeting is going to be Dr. Tressler is receiving a national award called the C. Everett Koch Unsung Hero Award. This is the Pulitzer Prize globally of the tobacco control movement. And it's recognizing, she doesn't look like she does, but she does a lot. It's recognizing that she is the person that introduced the concept of using human rights as a basis for tobacco control, anti-tobacco work. She took a leave of absence 20 years ago and went to Harvard University to study human rights and health. She convinced her professor that this was something that should be done. He's now on the ASH board. And as I've actually traveled around the world with him speaking on this. And it is the basis for Project Sunset. When you examine what the tobacco industry does through a human rights lens, you come out the other side with the clear conclusion that governments have a responsibility to stop what they're doing. So thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer questions. I'll leave my card with them.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Right on, Kevin. Yeah, congratulations.
If you come at lunchtime, I'm making the cakes for the award. So, it's added and sent it to come, so
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
thank you.
All right, still not seeing Corinne either in the room or on Zoom. What do you think, Preston? Should we just deal with that item anyway, or should we wait? Do the other things first?
No, I notified her, she's usually here, when I notify her.
Why don't we go through the other ones if you're okay? Everybody okay with going on down the agenda?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we'll move to item number 9, annual presentation from Uncomparted Watershed Partnership regarding programs, projects, initiatives, and requests for funding. Tanya, are you on Zoom?
Dennis is filling in for time.
Okay, Dennis. Welcome, Dennis.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Wow, the internet's working from Montrose. Well, I didn't really prepare a whole lot because Tanya hopefully got you a letter pretty much detailing what we've been doing, what we're up to, and what we're looking at funding for in the coming year. And we greatly appreciate your past years of funding, and we would really appreciate it if we got funding again. I could run through all the details of it, but it might be easier and quicker if there's any questions on anything. Has everybody had a chance to read her letter?
I believe so. It's in the packet and it's very detailed as usual. Tanya does.
Okay.
Anybody have questions for Dennis? WP's plans.
The one big question mark is the Governor Basin project. The EPA has thrown a wrench in the cog on us and assigned Ridgway Silver Mines as a principal responsible party, which is a label that means they're solely responsible for the $700,000 or $800,000 cleanup. They don't have the money. They're teetering on the brink of closing, and that eliminates the possibility of Trial Unlimited and UWP getting state or federal funding to help Ridgway Silver Mines out. Our technical coordinator, Tanya, or Ashley, is working diligently trying to resurrect some or all of it. But as of right now, there's a lot of question marks with that. But we could still use that portion of the money would go to the River Watch program that Arlen Huggins runs. He still has to buy supplies for the water instruments and pay for shipping and administration and that sort of thing. So we definitely put the money to good use and appreciate it if you provided what we requested.
Great, thanks, Dennis. Yeah, sorry to hear that about the Governor Basin project. That's a wrench we didn't need thrown into things, is it?
Yeah, we spent a couple, 2-3 years preparing for that, and then this hit us like a brick.
Well, keep us posted on that. Hopefully something can be figured out.
Okay, will do.
At this time of year, we just take all the requests for funding and put them in a pile for consideration while we do our budgeting process. So we'll do that with this, and we appreciate being here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anybody
Have a
have
great evening.
either one more time, anybody have any questions either here on council or on Zoom? Don't see any hands up on Zoom. All right, so we'll move along. Thanks again, Dennis.
Okay, thank you all.
All right, that takes us to item number 9, number 10, the annual presentation from Eco Action Partners regarding programs, projects, initiatives, and requests for funding. We've got Kim and/or Emma on Zoom.
Looks like Emma.
How's it going? Good to see you all. This is Emma here. Am I able to share my screen?
Give you 1 minute, you will be.
Preston's making that happen.
You should be good to go, Emma.
Okay, let's see. Great.
We can see that.
Perfect. Okay, back to the beginning. Great, thank you so much for having me today. I'm Emma Gerona, I'm the Executive Director of Eco Action Partners, and we have our annual program update for you all today. Quick overview for anyone who's not familiar with Eco Action Partners. We're the regional sustainability nonprofit, and we focus on tracking our regional greenhouse gas emissions and coordinating programming to reduce our energy and waste. Those programs fall into 4 different categories, the first being community, so educating, empowering, and acknowledging our local sustainability actions. Emissions, tracking our progress towards our regional greenhouse gas emission reduction goals across the region. Energy, promoting energy efficiency and renewable energy. And then lastly, waste, reducing our waste through recycling, composting, and education initiatives. All of this is made possible through regional collaboration. So I wanted to talk briefly about the Sneffels Energy Board. It's a regional collaborative board developed back in 2009 to address sustainability initiatives made up of government, utility, and citizen representatives, including representatives from the town of Ridgway. And the board works together to collaborate on reducing our emissions, analyzing progress, inform successful programming, and identifying new opportunities across the region. The Sneffels Energy Board led the process to develop the current regional climate action plan, which we brought in front of you all earlier this year, so I won't go into too much detail, but a quick overview of the climate action plan. It's a working roadmap towards our regional sustainability goals over the next decade of planning, so looking at both short-term and long-term planning. It covers 8 different sectors, 21 objectives and 74 actions, so it really covers that high-level and detail-oriented action planning. We wanted to focus on measurable goals. So we're looking at 50% reduction by 2030 and 90% by 2050 to stay in line with our Colorado state goals. And lastly, it's a comprehensive and collaborative approach to climate action. So what does that mean? We saw the need for regional planning in our area for several reasons. The first being that we have many shared regional resources across the area. So we need to collaborate because we have items like the gondola that lie in one jurisdiction but benefit or affect several. We also have common challenges across the region with increases in tourism, the cost of living, and shortages of affordable housing. And lastly, much of our workforce and goods are coming from surrounding communities, which ties us to the broader Western Slope region. So because of this, it will take the support of our whole region to maintain our environmental, economic, and cultural viability. For this reason, the CAP acts as that umbrella document looking at that high-level planning within which we included community-wide and government-specific actions. Part of the climate action plan was looking at our greenhouse gas emissions analysis. So this is still the pie chart from 2020. We are currently in the process of developing the 2021 inventory, but I just wanted to highlight our switch to ICLEI's online inventory tool called ClearPath this year that helps us to compare our inventory to over 300 other communities across the US that use this tool. It also has opened up a wealth of planning resources for our community and government partners, one of which is a Race to Zero cohort that Eco Action Partners has been sitting on across the west of the US. So it's been really great to hear about projects, policies, and programming that other communities are taking on as we move towards zero emissions. It also helps us to ensure consistency with the GPC as changes happen to inventory methodologies, making sure that we're up to date as those changes go on. And lastly, it's given us greenhouse gas forecasting capabilities. So you all have seen this chart when we were in front of you with the climate action plan, but quick overview. These are our emissions across the region moving forward, including both tri-states commitment to 100% renewables by 2040, along with high level and localized reduction strategies. As you can see, there's a high priority on reducing our building energy use emissions, that blue section of the chart, because they are currently our highest sector of emissions, and driving those towards zero, not only with increasing the renewables in our energy supply with efficiency and beneficial electrification initiatives. But you can see we're still not in line with our 2030 or 2050 state goals. So we need to implement more creative and comprehensive policies and actions across the region to reach those goals. And much of that is because of our tourism economy-based emissions. So looking at both transportation and material consumption, those emissions are growing as our population and tourism economy continue to grow. From this, the climate action plan covers 8 different sectors to look at actions that can push us towards our goals. Not going to go into these today as we've done that in a previous meeting, but just wanted to highlight the broad scope of actions that are included in this document. I do want to highlight 2 projects that have come out of the climate action plan that are currently underway at Eco Action Partners. And the first is implementation and education around beneficial electrification. So quick review, beneficial electrification is the term for replacing direct fossil fuel use of propane, heating oil, or gasoline with electricity when it reduces our emissions and energy costs. And it's really exciting for our region that this is now the case because of the amount of renewables we have in our supply mix, which is around 40%, that switching from fossil fuel to electricity is now beneficial in terms of reducing our emissions. So there's been a big regional push, not only with Eco Action Partners, but with SMPA and our government partners in moving the transition towards beneficial electrification forward. In this light, we have started a focus group to help this transition with our community partners, talking about what changes need to happen for that to go smoothly as more electric appliances come online. The second project I wanted to highlight is our electric vehicle regional readiness plan that Eco Action Partners is developing in partnership with our local government partners and SMPA and a Western state master's student. There's a lot of funding coming down the line from the federal and state governments for electric vehicles, and much of that requires that you have a readiness plan in place. So we're really excited to support the region in looking at those details of what infrastructure we'll need, what the cost will look like, and what partners need to be involved before that funding comes down the pipeline. Moving into Eco Action Partners regional programming, it falls into 3 categories. So looking at community and education, so our outreach initiatives and Truth or Dare student programming, our energy programs, our care weatherization program, SMPA rebate programs, and green business. And then our waste programming, so plastic film, electronic waste, and our compost recycling and trash services with festivals. This is just a quick snapshot of all of the outreach events we've hosted or participated in this year so far. There's been a lot of them, but we've supported the Uncompahgre Solar Co-op in educating folks around the region on Solar 101, solar financing opportunities, and ways to implement energy efficiency initiatives before going solar. We've also hosted CAP Climate Action Plan work sessions with all of our government partners, including Ridgway, along with other community partners across the region. And it's been really exciting to get that document out in front of our community and really dive into the details of those actions to make sure that they really represent the priorities and needs of our community members. Outside of that, I mentioned the Renewable Energy and Beneficial Electrification Transition Group. We've hosted an Earth Day event. We were able to join the Ridgway River Festival earlier this summer, which was really fun to talk to folks about local sustainability initiatives there. Have started hosting environmental happy hours on a monthly basis. We're at the Ridgway Farmers Market a couple weeks ago, and just recently hosted green business roundtable events in both Telluride and Ridgway. Moving on to our Truth or Dare student program. It's a week-long challenge working with students to understand and reduce their own carbon footprints through actionable dares. This year, we were able to present to over 280 students at 5 different schools and have a second round of classes planned for the fall, and have introduced a carbon footprint calculation aspect to the program so that students can really understand how their individual actions impact their own carbon footprint. Moving into energy, our income qualified care weatherization program offers energy audits and weatherization work for no cost to the qualifying participants of the program. And it is up to 80% of median income in the area that qualifies. So there really is low and middle income brackets that can be a part of this program. Improvements include anything from boiler replacements, new refrigerators, insulation, LED bulbs, and so much more. The improvements not only look at lowering utility bills and energy use, but also creating a more comfortable and safe living environment. So if there's gas leak concerns, we will help address those, making sure that your home is warm in the winter and cool in the summer. So there's really so many benefits beyond just lowering utility bills to being a part of this program. We have a goal of serving 40 homes in 2022 and have served 34 so far. So we're well on our way to reaching that goal. And I've served over 190 homes since the program began, saving approximately 280 metric tons of CO2 every year. Eco Action Partners administers the energy efficiency rebates for SMPA. There are rebates for our region from LEDs, kitchen appliances, water heaters, electric bikes is an exciting new one, air source heat pumps, and so much more. We're really so grateful for SMPA, and they will be presenting to you later this evening for all of the funding that they put towards these rebates, helping folks purchase more efficient appliances and electric appliances. So far this year, we've served over 124 members for $45,000 in rebates. So it's really great to see that money going back into SMPA's members' pockets. Up next is our Green Business Membership Program, helping to create a sustainable business community while focusing on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. There are many benefits to the program, including free weatherization materials, grant and rebate assistance. We'll help develop a customized sustainability plan for a business. The roundtable events that I mentioned earlier are a great way to get together with other businesses across the community and talk about project ideas and so much more. I wanted to highlight some of the focus areas for this program because we work with such a wide variety of businesses that there's really countless ways that people can get involved in this program, because we'll really meet a business where they are and work with them on their sustainability goals and helping move those forward. So looking at areas like energy efficiency, food, product and packaging sourcing, waste reduction and disposal, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Ongoing education is also a really important one, not only for staff of business, but for the patrons as well. I did want to highlight all of the businesses that are a part of the program at the moment. And as you can see, there is a wide variety of businesses involved here, from hotels, retail, banks, and so many others. So it's really fun to see all of these businesses caring about sustainability and wanting to get involved in this community. Moving on to our plastic film upcycling program. This was actually developed out of a Green Business Roundtable event a couple years back. We helped to upcycle plastic film into Trex outdoor decking and furniture, and have upcycled over 1,400 pounds of plastic this year, including over 120 from the Telluride Bluegrass Festival. So it's really exciting to see plastic film upcycling being implemented there. There's public collection locations across the region, including one at the Eco Action Partners office. We're really excited to see the Ridgway collection program for businesses growing. The collection shed is at the hardware store there, and are continuing to explore locations across the region, including one in Norwood, to help expand the scope of this program.
There's also a collection box at Alpine Bank in Ridgway, just so you know.
Yes, thank you. Our regional waste support, we've been supporting ongoing efforts towards developing community and larger composting systems across the region. And much of this right now includes promoting our existing composting opportunities, including Dirty Sturdy's, Mark's Dirtivance pickup service, which has been really great. We also have a resources page on our website that is up to date with not only the opportunities across the region for composting, but also education, so that folks are utilizing these resources correctly. And then last but not least is our festival services with compost, recycling, and trash. We partner with events and festivals to help them decrease their waste. We only have numbers back from Bluegrass Festival right now, but as I mentioned, there's over 120 pounds of plastic film recycled. We also saw 580 pounds of food donated to the food bank after the festival. So it's really great to see that partnership developing and growing. And there was a 70% diversion rate with over 350 cubic yards of waste diverted. So it's really great to see these festivals that come into our communities caring about sustainability and making this difference. We were also thrilled to host a booth at Bluegrass and educate festival attendees, not only on Eco Action Partners regional programming, but on other local sustainability initiatives that are happening and how they can be more sustainable visitors to our region. Wanted to talk for a moment about Ridgway sustainability support, and I'm not sure if Kim is in the room now.
Just got your logo, yep.
Perfect. I'll pass it over to Kim then.
Welcome, Kim.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry for being late. I was on Art Space Ridgway job site all day.
Great, your timing is perfect.
Okay, great. So just real quickly, Eco Action Partners, we participate in the ROC Clean Energy Committee, providing input to that group, as well as support for different projects. The committee also provides ideas to Eco Action programs and how we can help expand them across Ridgway and Uri County. So there's a lot of collaboration to achieve the climate action plan goals through that group. One of the subcommittees from that group you're all familiar with is the Zebra subcommittee. And so we're focusing on zero energy buildings and how to get from the existing building code to there. And so providing a lot of support to that group on energy codes. And as part of that, I'll be attending the October 5th meeting of the Ridgway Sustainability Committee to talk about zero energy building codes and other community projects that they would like support with. So that's my part of the presentation.
Thanks, Kim.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. With that, I just want to say thank you so much for your effort from Ridgway. We really appreciate your partnership over these past years and would like to invite you to continue the partnership going forward and are requesting $6,000 to continue our regional services, including both regional and Ridgway greenhouse gas inventories, forecasting and analysis, our ICLEI regional membership and resources, NEFL's Energy Board facilitation and partnership, which includes our climate action plan implementation, looking at that regional EV readiness plan and beneficial electrification implementation, those roundtables for beneficial electrification transition and community outreach initiatives, along with Eco Action Partners regional slate of programming, so our green business program, plastic film, and other waste resources and programming. And lastly, the Ridgway government support that Kim just talked about. So participation in and support for Ridgway staff, ROC, Zebra, and the other sustainability committees. With that, I want to say thank you so much to all of our partners and to all of you for your time today. And I will open it up to any questions.
Great, thanks, Emma. That was good. Anybody here in the room have questions for Emma or Kim?
If an individual wanted to get some more information about solar and electrification and stuff like that, not a business partner, you guys would be the source, or what would be the right approach for them?
They can certainly reach out to us for support. We might, depending on their need, we might just guide them to a local solar provider.
Okay.
But yeah, any questions?
Same thing for like the air source heat pumps. Because I think those are going to be really big in the future.
They already are.
Yeah. So they can reach out to you to find out who's doing that. At last I heard, there weren't any maybe or enough knowledgeable contractors who put in those systems, and so that was a problem. Is that still a problem?
It's still a learning curve for everybody involved. So through my business, we're helping to provide the sizing and selection of air source heat pumps. And trying to connect companies that are suppliers with companies that are interested in learning. We're encouraging those that are interested in learning, as well as connecting homeowners with the right support. So between Eco Action and my business in different ways, we're trying to really bridge that gap and help make sure that people have the right resources here.
So we're hoping that some of the Montrose HVAC contractors are going to be up to speed to do that soon.
Yeah, and a lot of them are doing it for new construction projects. A lot of the all-electric affordable housing projects are all heat pumps. A lot of the new construction large homes are all heat pumps. The smaller ones here in Ridgway are all going heat pumps. So there's definitely a demand for it. And so the contractors are pretty much having to come up to speed. So it's just a little bit of a lag, but we're getting there.
Good to know. Other questions either here at council or in the audience on Zoom? Don't see any hands, so. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Emma. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
Your request will go into the stack for budget time. All right, that takes us to annual presentation from San Miguel Power Association regarding programs, projects, and initiatives. Alex, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Clark.
1 second.
Okay, sure. I do have slides. I'm a very animated speaker, but the slides also help. So. I was wondering if I should log in. Oh, you've got it. Oh, perfect. Terrific, thank you. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me or may have forgotten me, I'm Alex Shelley, the Communications Executive for San Miguel Power Association. And glad to be here tonight. We have a strategic objective to reach out to our members, including municipalities, counties, and just individual members, to give an update on your cooperative and the activities that are going on. I'll go over a couple of the programs that we're partnering with Eco Action Partners, but one of my favorites is actually the fact that I'm here sort of piggybacking on Kim and Emma's presentation. They know that we want to do this, and they're saying we're going in front of folks anyway just to talk, so why don't you just join us? And I'm thrilled to be able to do that. So strategically, of course, our board of directors has published our list of strategic objectives. That's on our website. This presentation is going to be kind of focused on two main ideas. One is that as we look to the future, we're keeping an eye on, keeping our rates and our costs equitable across the spectrum. But we have a wide spectrum of varied account statuses and profiles, different types of users from large commercial to all the way down to individual residential. And so we're always looking across and trying to make sure that cost causers are cost payers. And so we continue to come back to that. That, of course, is happening in the backdrop of an industry that is undergoing enormous change just in the past decade. And everyone is moving forward toward a vision of a more, an energy grid that is based on more renewable sources, that has more flexibility. And so there's a lot of challenges because that's not how our grid was built originally. And so to move that way takes a lot of considerations. So this is just a list of the things the main 5 points that I'll talk about today, and I'll jump in. Emma mentioned beneficial electrification, and we like to start with our definition of beneficial electrification, a term that has a lot of syllables. Not everybody knows exactly what we mean by that. So just to clarify, there's 4 pillars. Basically, can it save a consumer money? Can it improve the quality of a particular product? Can it reduce greenhouse gas emissions? And can it help make the grid more resilient? If it does any one of those things without any detriment to the others, then we consider that beneficial electrification. And so to that end, we've identified in our rebate programs appliances that we feel qualify as beneficial electrification. So this list the type is really small. We're not going to go over them all, but just know that on the left-hand side, those are our efficiency rebates, and they're managed right now by Eco Action Partners. So if you're interested in learning about energy efficiency, you go to their website, and they are managing those rebates for us. On the right, we have renewable energy, particularly for net metered systems like solar, rooftop solar, and so on. You can find information about that on our website. And then the new category of beneficial electrification is also hosted on our site. Net metering, of course, is the definition of that is you're a member and you have decided to generate your own power. In most cases, that's through rooftop solar. We do actually have a couple of net metered small hydro systems on our grid, not many, but we do have a couple of those, and they qualify as net meter as well. But what happens, of course, is you generate when the sun is shining in most cases, and then you're able to bank that energy if it exceeds your home's need during that time. And we store that and we give it back to you in terms of credits. Most people are aware of how that system works. But what not everybody's aware of is what a huge spike we're seeing in interest in these types of programs. If you look at the chart there, you'll see at the far right, this is from 2021 and then this year and moving on. It's been an enormous, we've had an enormous influx of applications. So that's fine. We want to be able to handle that. There is a challenge with it though. We've also been getting a lot of requests to size systems that are greater than what the state kind of defines as a net metered system. And our board wants to say yes, but there are financial costs of that. So we had to make some changes to our net meter policy in order to position ourselves where we can continue to partner with our members who want a net meter. And so those changes have taken really two forms. One, we've changed what we pay back for those oversized systems. Now they're getting wholesale rather than retail for the amount that's above that. And we've also changed our annual true up in order to keep things current year by year. And there are now 2 times when a net metered member can enroll for that. And that's, again, that works to the benefit of sometimes of our hydro members who may have a different time of year that they want to true up. So we're glad to see these changes in net metering, and it positions us to where we can be partners rather than against our members. So
Alex, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Sorry. What's driving the increase? Maybe I just missed it. Sorry if I did, but I'm sure there's a number of variables, but that's substantial.
It's substantial.
Yeah.
It's substantial. It can be, so the short answer is we don't know exactly how to pin that down, other than, obviously the price of solar has come down historically over many years. Chalk it up to changes that took place after COVID. Obviously there were all the home projects that sort of notoriously raised the price of lumber and everything else. There was a lot of interest in improving people's homes. Those are just really educated guesses.
Sure.
But there's a number of factors. Yeah. So we mentioned the renewable rebates, and one of our additional programs that go to encourage renewable energy is, of course, our Totally Green. And Town of Ridgway is one of our Totally Green members, and we're thrilled to have you on board. I wanted to put this slide up so that you have some idea of where that money is going, paying a penny extra per kilowatt hour in order to be part of that program, in order to claim to know that your energy is coming from renewable sources. We've told you that goes into a green fund. Well, what happens to it then? So here you can see the input programs include Totally Green, as well as some of our other programs. And there's the outcomes. The outcomes are going toward these renewable rebates. They're going towards our efficiency rebates. Also to help out with the net metering systems and our IQ programs. IQ stands for income qualified. And so that's for members who fit a certain qualification level. And it's really a fairly high, it's really low to middle income for qualification. And that's so that they can get weatherization on their homes to make their homes more efficient and less wasteful of energy. So really exciting that we can manage a fund like this. Not everybody has this. And so thank you to our partner communities for helping us to make this a reality for our members. Other exciting projects include all of these housing projects. I'm sure you guys are well aware there's at least 3 of them happening here in Ridgway. Well, as these new homes are being built, we want, in that same spirit of beneficial electrification, we want to see them be all electric, because beneficial electrification takes advantage of the fact that electricity is becoming more sustainable as time goes on. And I'll talk a little bit more about our energy mix in a second. But these housing projects are very exciting. You can see the picture here is It's attracted the interest of the governor, the project that took place there in Norwood, the Pinion Pines, and or Pinion Park. And that same Telluride Foundation project is looking to build in this area as well. And so we're excited that we're talking about not only all electric homes, but the most efficient form of all electric to save our consumers money, which is, after all, the big push, the big idea behind these housing projects is to make it accessible for members, for workers to come and help be the lifeblood of these communities. On power supply, I mentioned that beneficial electrification means that as we move forward into the future, using electricity means you're using cleaner energy. Every year it gets cleaner and cleaner. A little bit more specific on that. We, of course, are a distribution electric cooperative. We purchase 95% of our energy from a wholesale electric cooperative, which is Tri-State. The extra 5% is our really kind of cool projects. Those are all of our small hydros, the Uray Hydro, Cold Creek, and our solar projects like the IQ program in Norwood, the Paradox Solar Array, which is a megawatt, and other solar projects that we have. So those are all kind of our local. We're very proud of those. The lion's share of it, of course, is Tri-State. And so you have to take a look at what Tri-State's doing. Several years ago, Tri-State announced their responsible energy plan. They announced the closures of coal burning facilities in Craig. They announced, I think it's 8 or 9 new projects throughout the Southwest for solar and wind. And these are huge projects. These are in the hundreds of megawatts. So they are undergoing a transformation, the likes of which they've never experienced before in their history, which started in the 50s. So an impressive change on the part of Tri-State. It affects us. Currently, Tri-State's renewable energy mix sits at around, we'll say conservatively, 1/3. So that means the power we're getting from them is about 1/3 renewable. So that's as we sit today. But again, it's the trajectory that is really exciting. So as we move forward, Tri-State has projected that they are looking at half and half renewables by 2024. Our board of directors has set a strategic objective to determine the best way forward for reliability, safety, affordability for members in terms of our power supply. And they're looking at all options. So you may be aware, Tri-State has had some defections in the past. It started with Kit Carson in New Mexico and our neighbors to the north, DMEA. So we got a lot of questions. What about exiting Tri-State? And that is one of the options that's still on the table for our board of directors. The option that we've done the most research into, I won't say the most research, but we've done a good bit of research into an option called partial requirements, which would be taking a portion of our power and sourcing it from someone other than Tri-State, but still retaining a 65% Tri-State based supply of our demand. So the way that looks, and note the dotted lines, that means this is an idea. We're not we're not committed to this, but that would look like a 65-35 split. Our board of directors, keeping this in mind, put out an RFP for alternative power suppliers, and that process yielded a choice, and that choice would be Guzman Energy based out of Denver as a potential second wholesale provider of energy. So it's not guaranteed, but Guzman has talked about providing 100% of their portion as renewables. So if you add that to Tri-State's 50% by 2024 to our expanding renewables, you could end up, in theory, in 2025, with us being able to serve our members an energy mix that is 75% renewables. So that's again, that's not the end game, but it's a nice kind of benchmark that we're looking towards.
Can I ask you another question? What's the outlook for that? When will a decision be made on Ridgway?
So right now, Tri-State is, if you've been following it, Tri-State has recently come under the jurisdiction of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC. And so they are publishing their plans for their new rate structure under that regulation. And so there are a number of variables that are yet unknown. And really, our board of directors needs some numbers to know what that's going to look like. And two of the numbers that are of utmost importance are the BDP, the buy down payment, and that would be the amount that SMPA would owe, would have to buy out of a portion of our demand from Tri-State in order to make the other 42 members of Tri-State whole. We would need to know what that buy down payment would be. It would be a one-time payment. And then a more extreme example would be if we were to exit Tri-State, what would be the amount of the total that we would owe of future payments to Tri-State. And we don't have those answers. So our board is continuing to pursue those vigorously. Throughout this process, Tri-State came up with an offer that the 5% of our power that is generated here locally falls under what Tri-State calls their policy 115. Through these sort of talks, Tri-State created a policy 119, which was specifically for solar, but an additional 2%, which would equal a total of 7%, that we could self-generate. And we started looking for that. And I believe I was in this room asking people for ideas because we needed land. We needed a place where we could put this. Since then, FERC, the regulatory body, has signaled that they would not support that. However, it's not slowing us down. The good news is our demand has grown. So as we look at the numbers, what used to be 5% for us with our solar and our hydro is not 5% anymore. There's room. There's room for this other array. So we are continuing to look for it. We have had a nibble. And we're doing research on a property in the Ridgway area. It won't fit the whole bill, but it'll be a start. And so we're eagerly looking at that and hoping that it will work out. But the call remains. If anybody knows of land that is near our three-phase power that has good solar exposure, that a private entity or a community or a county would be willing to either long-term lease or give for the purpose of solar, we're very interested in talking about that because we would love to put up another 2 megawatt array. So just something to keep in the back of your minds. Speaking of exciting projects, we just can't get enough of these. We have also engaged with the San Miguel County Sheriff's Department in really groundbreaking microgrid projects. So, and before I get into the microgrids, I want to again do a little definition clarification. Microgrids are for resiliency. The term reliability means your power doesn't go off. Resiliency means it went off, comes right back on. So a microgrid is what we call an island. And basically it is able to sustain itself, at least for a limited period of time, without input from the grid. So these projects, and there were 2 of them, one at the Sheriff's Annex in Norwood and another one at the sheriff's office on Ilium. Both of these projects are supported by battery backup, by natural gas generator, and solar panels. And of course, they're grid tied. So when the grid's working, they take power just like everybody else. If the grid goes down, San Miguel County has identified critical loads that they would prefer don't go down at all. So they've got backup generation. And then a backup to that backup generation is the battery system. And the battery system is capable of being charged by the solar panels during the day when everything is running smoothly. And so really this system can be cut off from the grid and it can be self-sustaining. So it's a very exciting project. It has, again, drawn attention from the state. Our CEO actually described this case study to the state legislature. And we believe that it went a long way toward making some significant changes in state law. So we're jazzed about it and we want to do more. So I'm here, sort of opening the door. If the town of Ridgway has any loads that you would consider critical, that you would prefer never go down, microgrid could be the way. So we're interested in discussing those types of things. These are very cool projects. Here's just some photos of the arrays. This is the array at Ilium, and then here are the batteries. And we just had we tested this system a good bit, but we just had our unplanned test last week, September 8th. There was a power outage down valley, and we had a piece of equipment that faulted. We had to send guys, we had to fix it. It's unfortunately not that uncommon. But during that time, power was out to this facility and they never saw a blink. Their power just kept on going. So a very cool project, and it's great to see it working. Speaking of reliability, so resiliency on one side, reliability on the other, we would prefer that your power never go out. And here in Ridgway County, as you know, this is a fast growing area. In our service territory, we consider Ridgway County to be the fastest growing. This area is served by a main line, and then the redundant power comes over Red Mountain Pass. And that power line, that transmission line, parts of it are original from the 30s. It regularly takes a beating from Mother Nature, and we have known for some time that we needed to do something to shore that up. So the Red Mountain, and I'm going to say the whole name here, the Red Mountain Electrical Reliability and Broadband Improvement Project was born. Secretly, we call it the Reamer bit because if you spell it anyway. So this project was quite large when it was first envisioned. It was going to be by far the largest and most expensive project SMPA had ever taken on in its history. And that was before COVID. So the price has essentially doubled since then. And we're having to take a serious look at how to do this project in phases. The first and most critical phase was the clearing of the right of way. It took us two years and 2 4-week periods of intermittent road closures on Red Mountain Pass. I'm sure you remember, but we were able to clear that right of way, and it is far safer from the perspective of fire mitigation. And we're proud to say that. So the next phases of that project are currently being studied, and that's kind of where we are. But we do want to thank the communities, particularly Ridgway and Silverton on either side of those road closures, who cooperated with us and communicated with us their needs as we got through that kind of difficult time, because of course the only time we can work up there is when the weather's good, which is the height of their economic season. I know the effects were felt here in Ridgway as well. We appreciate your cooperation and your support. That was extremely helpful. I think Emma with Eco Action referenced the Snapples Energy Board, and that's another one of our partnerships with Eco. We're glad to sit on that board as well, and looking to meeting with them again, hopefully again soon, hopefully before the end of the year. Very much a problem-solving group looking for solutions and bringing an open mind to the problem of global problem of climate change and local solutions and what we can do. It does bring up one of the topics that's near and dear at SMPA, and that is our rate structure, which is based, and I blew past this slide earlier, but I want to go back to it. Our rate structure is based on a grid that is shown there on the left. Our power grid was fairly simple at its inception. Energy would be generated at a central location. It was transmitted at high voltage over long distances and delivered to electrical substations, where a distribution cooperative like us could pick up that power, step it down in voltage, and then deliver it to homes and businesses, hospitals, schools in our communities. Simple system, relatively. Well, that system is being complicated, and that's part of the challenge of moving to this greener, cleaner grid, is that now we have new inputs. We have intermittent power supply from renewables. That's not how coal worked. So having to recognize and understand how renewables work requires extra pieces that need to go into that puzzle, one of which is energy storage. There's also advanced data that needs to be tracked in real time. So that system, the system of the future, the system we want, is under construction now. But again, locally, our rate structure as it is designed is built for the system of the past. And so we're taking a look at how we charge our members, again, with the idea of being equitable and fair, but also moving towards this clean energy future. And to that end, our board has contracted a rate study, as they do anytime that we take a look at rates. And rate making is a very complicated process. This is just a little graphic of all the little considerations that go into that. Another consideration is the difference between our access charge, which is a fixed fee, and the variable energy rate. Historically, we have had a very low access charge and relatively high energy charge. Again, energy is the volumetric. That's the piece that goes up and down. And if you look at the red line from 1996 all the way to about 2008, times were good. Financially speaking, load was growing and this risk was relatively small. Once those sales started to taper off, however, we began to look at that and say, you know, our fixed costs as the cooperative represent a much bigger portion of our power bill than that which we're charging to our members. And so these sort of the fat green bars represent the access fee. And then the skinny blue bar represents the energy charge. That's kind of a risky place to be. So when we made adjustments, it was the access fee that got increased, not the energy charge. And that was to provide more stability, to put the cooperative in a position that was on better footing. And so as we move forward, you'll see the energy charges remain relatively stable, maybe even gone down a little bit, while that access fee has gone up. Now, again, this is an old solution to a rate structure that is based on an old grid. What we're talking about in the next few years isn't just a fix that, you know, that sort of is a Band-Aid to an old system, but a restructured rate system. And specifically, what we're talking about is adding a time component. And so we've had time of use programs in the past. We're taking a look at it again for the future because it's a component that can't be ignored. Solar produces during the day. That's the time when we have the least demand. When our demand goes up, people come home, they turn on the TV, the internet, everything goes on. That's when solar's starting to dip. It's going to be a challenge to make this work. And so our board is going to be taking a look at, in the next few years, a rate restructure. And so it's important for our members to be aware of that.
All right, thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Good presentation.
Any questions?
Questions?
It's a lot. I covered a lot.
I got a side question. What is the size voltage of the main line that comes into Ridgway County?
I am 90% sure that I know the answer to that question, and that's not enough. Can I get back with you?
No rush at all.
Okay.
Next time we talk.
Okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
No,
Anything else?
I've heard numbers when talking about line upgrades over the years coming over Wilson Mesa or one of the mesas that's in Tyler, they were talking numbers like in teens of kilowatts for some of those lines, but that's not necessarily the main line.
So a common voltage for a transmission line, we're talking transmission lines,
yeah,
is like 69 kV.
Okay.
There's also 115 kV. If I were to guess, and it's only a guess, that's what I'd say that line is.
Maybe 110.
Right.
So much bigger.
Yeah, a good bit for transmission. Again, high voltage helps electricity go over long distances with minimal losses. So that's how AC won the battle of the what do they call it? The battle of the currents.
Right, AC versus DC.
AC versus DC.
Right. I see a hand up online. Dana, you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, hey, Alex, thank you. That was an amazing presentation. I'm really ignorant, so I have two quick questions. I hope this isn't redundant, but you were mentioning if you were to find a new wholesale provider, Goodsman Energy in Denver, that would be 100% renewable. Does that mean that Goodsman Energy comes not from coal, that where does Goodsman get its where is that wholesale energy coming from Goodsman?
Yeah, that's a great question. Goodsman is largely on the market. They do a lot of trading for, and so I think they feel, again, I don't want to put words in their mouths, but the possibility that the power that they provide us could be from 100% of their power from renewable sources has been discussed. Again, it's not a guarantee. And actually, as time moves on and as prices continue to go up, our feeling is that it's going to be maybe more and more difficult for them to make that work. But that was part of the discussion, and I'm okay to say that it is a possibility.
Okay, and then just one more question. I'm just curious. You said if you did exit Tri-State, that you would owe them money. I'm just curious, why would you owe Tri-State money?
Great question. So in order to be served by Tri-State, in order to be a member of Tri-State, we signed a wholesale electric, what's called the West, the wholesale electric contract. And it's a long-term contract that provides Tri-State the security that they need in order to make long-term investments of their own in order to provide that energy. Their end of the bargain is to make sure that we never run out. Our end of the bargain was to give them years and years and years of commitment. So that is the contract or every contract, of course, is its own, But wholesale electric contract is what used to bind, for instance, DMEA. And they, through negotiations, exited that. Well, in order to do that, in order to make that work, they would have to make Tri-State the other, because Tri-State's not an entity of its own, it's cooperatives, just like us. We are a member of Tri-State. So how do we know when someone exits that our rates aren't going to go up? In fact, they will go. And so that's the money that is owed in order to get out of that contract, out of that legally binding contract, would be a buyout. And they would basically be paying to make up for the losses that Tri-State will experience not having them as a member. Does that make sense?
Yes, could I be bold enough to ask you what kind of dollars you're talking about? Just curiously.
You can
Just
be
curious.
as bold as you want.
Okay.
But I don't.
In this case.
But I don't have the answer.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Dana,
welcome.
I was gonna suggest, I was just sort of scanning the Guzman Energy website. Google that, I think it's guzmanenergy.com, we just closed it, sorry. But it's pretty interesting, and it does look like DMEA. I don't know if they went exclusively with Guzman when they left Tri-State. It looks like maybe they did.
That's what I'm a DMEA member, and that's what I was made to understand.
Because there's a quote from somebody at DMA saying how great Guzman is.
Right.
There's also one on there about Kit Carson, or from Kit Carson as well.
Right,
I was also scanning, and it's just GUZMAN energy.com. Dana, if you want to look that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dana.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alex.
You bet. Thank you, Dana.
I can't remember if it was the Telluride Foundation presenting on it or Terry telling us, but he was talking about the program that's going to happen with one of the Telluride Foundation projects where they'll install the solar, and then that will be part of your bill through a project with Colorado Climate Fund or something.
Yeah, it's the Colorado Clean Energy Fund.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of what, really got, I believe, the governor's attention was the kind of the way that this is financed. Essentially, it's on bill repayment of these assets. So the homes are built with heat pumps, which are the most efficient technology for climate control, in building climate control, really ever invented. Short up by the fact that they're not only do they cool or warm homes in the winter, but they also serve as air conditioners. So they actually, take care of both sides of the spectrum, the same system. But of course, they have an upfront cost, and that raises the cost of the building, which of course would trickle down to the consumer. The whole idea of these homes is to make it more affordable for the consumer. So how do we fix this? On-bill financing gives us the ability to tack on a repayment fee on the power bill. And for the longest time, we pitched that idea. Our CEO had that idea a decade ago and has been trying to find a bank or credit union or somebody who would back that, and to no avail. And then enter the Colorado Clean Energy Fund. Their charter is to do things like this. They are, the reason for their existence is to help lower these bars so that these types of homes can be built so that working families can afford to live in the towns where they work. And so it was a slam dunk.
So I guess my follow-up question, and really what I'm driving at, is the limitation to expanding this opportunity to your members who maybe already own a home, but look at their solar costs and say, I really don't use that much energy. It just makes more sense to pay into totally green versus putting a solar array in my house. The limitation to that is finding a bank to be the financer so then you can run the on-bill repayment. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a homeowner. I don't use enough electricity to, my repayment rate is something stupid like 40 years. It's just dumb.
To actually buy your own.
Yeah, but if I could just put it on my electric bill, I want it on net metering and I'll happily pay for my system. Like,
Sure.
so the limitation to doing that is just finding the bank to be the finance partner.
To back the, yes, to basically to cover that. For individuals, that might be a tricky conversation.
Just looking at it, a potential expansion, if you guys had those partnerships where that was possible, that would be amazing for a lot of consumers in this community.
In the case of these new homes and the residents who are going to live there, it is possible, it's happening. As for, other scenarios, every situation is different. And we would have to kind of take them on a case by case basis, I suppose, but.
Sounds like a conversation for the Clean Energy Fund too, though.
Absolutely, and we have really enjoyed being in partnership with them, getting to know them and bringing them to the table. And so I don't know.
It's
The
just
possibility is there. I mean,
yeah,
it's an interesting ask.
I have a quick question. I know that you were saying one potential option for getting cleaner energy is to kind of do the 65-35 model. Would SNPA continue to pursue those big exciting projects like getting more solar? So it wouldn't be 65-35, it would be more like 65-30, and how would that work exactly?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. So the 65-35, we didn't just pull that out of a hat. That's what Tri-State has told us, would be the minimum amount for us to remain full Class A members, which would be to enjoy all of the benefits of that membership. And so included in that is all these rebates that we're proud to offer to our members. Most of those are subsidized by Tri-State. Tri-State helps us with our reliability projects, scholarships, a ton of benefits, like you mentioned. So we would not look to go below 65. I mean, unless we were going to exit, in which case we may as well throw out the whole thing, but there's not going to be any really number below that, because that's what they've told us.
And then, so would Guzman be okay with 30% or something like that if you were able to work that out? Or could that be something could that number go down over time?
Could Guzman's number go down?
Yes, like the percentage provided by Guzman. I'm trying to figure out, I guess my real question is, would there still be the initiative, still be the drive to get those closer to home greener energy projects?
Sure.
Kind of from SNPA.
So all I can say is what I know. I haven't sat in on the board's negotiations with Guzman, but I expect that Guzman, as a wholesaler, needs some guarantee, just like Tri-State does. So, but that's speculation on my part.
But I mean, in some way, we need the same thing where if we're relying on our local renewables and they have storage capacity, they're also giving us the constant supply too.
And storage is still an emerging technology. It's a lot of unknowns with regard to that.
Yeah. Seems like the other thing to pursue is Tri-State's 5% limit on alternative under their portion of the contract.
The policy 115.
Yeah. See, maybe put the pressure on to increase that number. That would give us some breathing.
Sure.
Anybody else have questions either here in the room or on Zoom?
We do that totally green voice.
Dude. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Preston, you've always got the perfect questions. All right. It appears that item number 7, Corinne Cavender is not going to show up from Tri-County Health Network to help us out with the proclamation declaring September 2022 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness and Recovery Month. So let's deal with that one now before we move on to our one public hearing, correct? So we have that here. You guys have got the proclamation in front of you. Does anybody want me to read that? We've done this every year. Seems like there's a suicide awareness month. It's like May or something, and
Mental health.
and then this suicide prevention month. I think these are really important, especially now more than ever. The epidemic of suicides, particularly in the communities of our youth, are so apparent these days. I'm always one of the first to step up and say I've dealt with depression on and off my entire life. I've considered suicide, and I just think everybody needs to know that if you have thoughts like that, it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you flawed. You can get help, and the awareness of that, the awareness that people from all walks of life experience these things, and it happens to everybody. So I hope that the message coming out of this proclamation reaches a few people that might not otherwise get that message. So that's my stump speech on this. Anybody else have anything they want to add? Or
I just wanted to add if you do have any of those thoughts, please call 988. You have the 3 numbers.
There's a new suicide prevention hotline. That's 988. Thank you for mentioning that. Anything else anybody want to add?
I want to add that 988 is not just the suicide hotline. It is a mental health crisis line.
Okay.
You don't have to be suicidal to use 988.
And any mental health crisis as opposed to a physical health crisis. Thank you. That's a good point. I guess I'll reach out and ask anybody either here in the room has a comment or question, or anybody on Zoom. Please raise your hand or just go ahead and unmute yourself. Don't see anything. So yeah, I just think this is really important. I think it was during the spring, whenever the other proclamation we did earlier this year. I actually was on a webinar talking about mental health challenges coming out of COVID and just where we are at in the world these days. And there's a group that I'm trying to blank on where exactly they are. I think it's either Salida or Buena Vista. They did a great program where they got people in the community that you wouldn't have thought had mental health challenges to tell their story in the local paper. And I'm going to reach out to, I've been reaching out to Mike and Aaron at the paper, but I'm hoping we can get something like that happening soon here, because I think it's really helpful for people to realize that this isn't, it doesn't need to be stigmatized. It doesn't need to be something that you feel is a big problem that only happens to you. So with that, someone want to make a motion?
I move to adopt the proclamation declaring September 2022 as Suicide Prevention Month in the town of Ridgway.
Second. Thank you. Motion's made by Polly, seconded by Russ, who's always quick on the draw. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, passes unanimously. It's so nice to be back in the room where we can just say all in favor.
I'm sure Pam appreciates
Yeah, no, she does. All right, so that takes us on to item number 12, our lone public hearing of the night. This is a transfer of Chipeta Sun Lodge's hotel / restaurant liquor license, property location 304 South Lena Street, current owner Chipeta Sun Lodge LLP, sole members Patsy and Jack Young, new owner Chipeta Lodge LLC, owned by Mesra Acquisition LLC, sole member Todd M. Mesra. Pam, can you lead us to this?
Sure. as noted, the Chipeta Sun Lodge is being sold. And part of that sale is the transfer of the liquor license that's held for the restaurant and the full premises. They have an optional premises license also, which allows them to move alcohol throughout buildings on the property. They're asking to transfer that license after their sale goes through. And that would be their hotel restaurant license with the option premises. State law does allow the transfer and an issuance from a local jurisdiction to continue to conduct the business. So part of that would be, I would issue a temporary operating license for them until they receive their state license. And we've done numerous of these, including a few this year. So, if you have any questions?
Yeah, anybody have any questions for Pam on this? I don't see anybody from either entity on Zoom, I don't believe, unless it's that phone number. Any questions or comments either here in the room or from Zoom? Don't see anything. Somebody want to make a motion?
I move to approve the application for transfer of hotel restaurant liquor license for Chipeta Sun Lodge to Chipeta Lodge LLC, owned by Mesra Acquisition, sole member Todd in Mesra.
A second.
All right, motion's made by Russ, seconded by birthday girl Beth. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Beth.
Sitting here, my water in the giant mug.
First time we've only had one public hearing in many months. This takes us to policy matters. Item number 13, annual presentation on weed management activities in Ridgway. I think I saw Julie on Zoom. So take it away, Julie.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, am I able to share a screen?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. She's deep in the grass there.
Or the weeds.
Was that crabgrass?
No, she doesn't have any weed.
All right, you guys are not seeing it, so, oh, here we go. Okay, share screen. Okay.
There we go.
You got that. Okay. I just want to start off, before I get into the results of what we did this year, I just wanted to mention that the county has been trying to increase public awareness of why we're spraying for noxious weeds. I know that there are a lot of people who have a lot of various concerns. I have placed noxious weed posters around the county in various places in Ridgway. I had an individual take it upon themselves to deface one of my posters. I want to encourage anybody who's at the meeting, who has any questions, who has any concerns, anything. I am more than happy to share with you, to try to, alleviate any concerns you have and explain, like I am tonight, what's going on and why we're doing this the way they are. But I've taken a lot of time to try to get the word out there and do that. And I would just ask that in the future that if you see these posters, that you just come and talk to me or give me a phone call. I'm trying to make sure everybody understands why we're doing this. The individual who did this had some concerns over what I was using, and basically wanted me to use nothing but ORMI listed organic herbicides or horticultural vinegar. So I'm going to speak to that for just 1 second here. So I just compiled a small list of facts because I don't want to drone on about this all night long, but horticultural vinegar does not generate 100% weed control, and it's not systemic, meaning that it does not translocate through the plant, go down to the roots and kill to the roots. A lot of noxious weed species don't reproduce through seeds, they reproduce through roots. So we won't get 100% control on those. These studies that I got this information from are from several universities around the United States. They say that horticultural vinegar, you need to do repeat applications, sometimes one application every month. until the seed bank is exhausted. If any of you know of mullein, it's the large noxious weed that grows about 5 feet tall, has beautiful yellow flowers on it and very fuzzy leaves. Those seeds are reported to last for 100 years in the soil. So if we were talking about a repeated application once a month, we would have to do this for more than 100 years to control mullein. And then, the horticultural vinegars are exempt from EPA registrations because they are not considered herbicides in general. And most of them have little to no ecotoxicity information or worker exposure information. The acetic acid in vinegar, when you get above a concentration of 11%, can cause skin burns, can cause severe eye injury, and even blindness. And then the horticultural vinegar, if it was to be rated by the EPA, would have a danger rating if it goes over 20% acetic acid. For anybody who may not know this, when we did applications in Ridgway, we used herbicides that were from the caution category only. So that is, the categories go from the least toxic, go caution, warning, danger, and danger, skull and crossbones. So we're talking about a danger for acetic acid in vinegar. And then the last thing I want to point out, that acetic acid in vinegar is not recommended for perennial or well-established species, and noxious weeds are very well established, and a lot of them are perennials. So I just want to speak to that real quick. That's why we weren't considering the acetic acid in vinegar. Additionally, San Miguel County asked me last year to do a series of test plots for two, they're alternative, they're organic herbicides that were ORMI listed, both of them. And I tried those on an experimental plot in Rollins Park. Preston and I talked about that ahead of time. I won't go into the second one. The second one was basically ineffective, but here is this next slide is an image of those test plots, but it's just the first herbicide that we used. The first herbicide we used was called Axe, and that is ammonium neonate in Axe. The picture on the left was before the first application, and the picture on the right was from August 1st, and that was after only 2 applications. And what you're looking at here is, yes, it did absolutely burn the Canada thistle and the hound's tongue, and it is no longer there. Exactly the same as the horticultural vinegar would have done. But what you may not see is that it did burn everything else, the grass, the invasive weeds, and some of the native species that were in this little plot. And as of August 1st, it still looks like that. And the grass has only grown back to a certain extent. It's not even 50% of what it was before we started the test plot. So this is an ORMI listed organic. I just want to point that out. So I just want to speak to that real briefly. That's why these weren't considered as part of the applications in Ridgway. This is just a slide about what I just talked about with Axe and the ammonium neonate. So after tonight's presentation, if anybody would like a copy of this, I'm happy to provide this to anybody who asks me for it.
And Julie, I'll just throw out, thank you for your comments about the poster that was defaced and your willingness to meet with anybody that has concerns about this. I just want to reiterate once again that Ridgway Town Council and town staff, we don't want to have to use pesticides or herbicides to deal with our noxious weed problem. The issue is that we have to. The problem has gotten to the point where we don't have a choice. And our goal, and you can back me up on this, is to do enough of a treatment that we get the issue under control. And I will also point out that one of the reasons that we've gotten to this point is because the best method for treating noxious weeds that is the least ecologically impactful is to pull, right? To get tons of volunteers out to pull these weeds. And it's probably not the only method, but if we get enough volunteers to pull frequently enough, we can keep these under control. The problem is we can't get enough volunteers to do this. So people who are concerned about this, please get in touch with myself or Julie. so we can explain the situation and then, help us control it manually. I think that's a big part of the issue. So I just want to make it clear, we're not thrilled with the fact that we're having to do this. Ridgway's always been very conscious environmentally and has tried to avoid this to the greatest extent possible. But time comes when the noxious weed problem is out of control. We gotta do something about it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, okay, and I just want to reiterate too, mechanical treatment is a good idea and it can be very effective, but you also need to know that, I'll just throw out an example here. Canada thistle, one of the harder ones, has lateral roots. This one reproduces through roots, not through seeds, has lateral roots that can travel up to 40 feet underground. So that's not always the case. Depends on the species you're trying to deal with. One of our problems in Ridgway is leafy spurge. That's another one. That's something I don't recommend anybody pull as long as they don't have gloves on. The sap is really toxic to you and can cause some severe blistering. But that has spiderweb roots that go various directions underground and can go up to 30 feet. So that's not always the case. Depends on what you're dealing with. But we treat these noxious weeds because I had somebody ask me this the other day, why are we treating the weeds? They're just weeds. We treat them because they're connected to climate change. We treat them because they contribute to the need to list species, animal species on the endangered species list. They decrease forage for wildlife. They have no natural predators, therefore nothing that limits their spread. All the biological controls you hear about are imported from the countries where these species come from. They decrease property values and they decrease productivity of agricultural lands and natural lands, and they decrease biodiversity. So that is why we need to deal with them. So these are the areas in which that I treated this year around Ridgway. We did not get to the point where we treated a lot of the along a lot of the town roads, but you can see here this BMX track, Rollins Park, Public Works Yard, Amelia Street and Sabeta Drive, Frontier Field, the County Road 5, the Happy Hollow Headgate area, and we did a small portion of Cottonwood Creek. Sorry, that Cottonwood Creek is at the bottom there, but anyway, again, they were all treated with the caution herbicides. Whoops, okay, so we treated 11, hopefully I can go back here. Doesn't like me to go back, I guess. We treated 11 species, okay, and out of those 11 species that we treated, we had 8 out of 11 are perennials. I mentioned that because it specifically states with the ORMI, the acetic acid, that they don't do well with perennials. So here's the Frontier Field application. This is the south side of the near the baseball diamond area. This these are the, I guess, the bases to your soccer goals. And this area, this whole area is filled with noxious weeds. This whole, I think it's 3 acres, I guess. What you're seeing in the picture is the leafy spurge, or one of the leafy spurge polygons. The circled area is what remained after the first application. So we got about 50% of it after the first application. In the background there, on the above the circle or whatever, is all the leafy spurge that is dead after that first application. And then the other species were listed here that were in the area. But then the second application, which I think was really great, the circled area right there is what was remaining after the second application. So visual estimate of this, I think we got about 80% of it. Here is basically a shot from above on the right-hand side of your screen. The numbers that you're seeing are basically the number of square feet of each polygon. The like teal color is our spotted knapweed. The dark blue is a polygon that has Canada thistle, hound's tongue, and one other species. And then the purple one is kochia and some Canada thistle. Most of this, I apologize, most of this area does have Canada thistle, so it's a lot bigger than these polygons suggest. But the little yellow ones are the leafy spurge. Those are the leafy spurge polygons. The one that says 62, there was one plant remaining after the first application. The picture on the left is a picture of the spotted knapweed. That's after the second application. Spotted knapweed seemed to be a little bit more of a problem child. I think after 2 applications in Frontier Field, I think we're looking at about 50% that we got. The other application was at Rollins Park. When we did Rollins Park, we did basically the area to the east and including the periphery of the parking lot. The species here are spotted knapweed, small amount of Chinese clematis, and diffuse knapweed, and spotted knapweed, diffuse knapweed, and I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Spotted Chinese and diffuse knapweed, I'm sorry. So these species, basically after the application that we did, kind of moved basically to the periphery of the park here by the bridge in the right-hand side picture, and then by the other bridge in the left-hand side picture. These were a little harder, a little bit more challenging because of, you know, the presence in the park of residents, but also because most of these are growing underneath the willow trees, right at the base of them in a lot of areas. So, you know, visually speaking, I think we got everything that was in the open areas near the parking lot and just have to work on the periphery next year. We did not go down the walking trail to the north of the parking lot, but that also has a lot of noxious weed species that need to be attended to. Here's the BMX park on Railroad Street. This, when we started the application, 2 species present were hoary cress, white top, also known as white top, and Russian knapweed. For anybody who may not know, when you talk about Russian knapweed is what we call allelopathic. And that means that it secretes a hormone or a chemical, the plant itself, that goes down into the soil and makes it very hard for anything else to grow in the area. Visual estimate is about 20% of the Russian knapweed was still remaining, and about 10% of the hoary cress was still remaining after the second application here. Here is the Happy Hollow head gate that I was asked to treat. It had a fairly significant infestation of leafy spurge. We did 1 treatment on here, and at the follow-up inspection, I found less than 5% remaining. Public Works yard. I apologize, Preston, when I went back after the first application to take the after pictures, your crew had basically mowed around the entire building. So I wasn't able to get pictures of that area. Same thing here. The 2 species that you know, are probably the hardest to work with, obviously, are spotted knapweed on your left. The picture to the left, or the plant to the left of the wooden trusses, I guess, that's your spotted knapweed plant. As you can see, it's pretty brown. Like I said, across the board, I think that in all the spots that I dealt with, the spotted knapweed, that was probably the one we had the hardest time controlling, and we probably got around 50% of all of it in all locations. This spotted knapweed is usually in an area that contains at least 2 other noxious weed species. And when there's that many noxious weed species in one area, it's going to take a while to get the upper hand on it. On the picture to the right, about upper side on your left, the very left there, that's spotted knapweed, but sort of in the middle there is a big patch of Canada thistle. And we got a lot of the Canada thistle here, probably about on the same rate, 50%, as far as that is concerned, just like the spotted knapweed. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing the screen right now. So the last 4 slides on my presentation basically were the information as to where, which university I got the information from as far as the alternative herbicides and the acetic acid and vinegar. So anybody who wants a copy of the presentation, I'm happy to give it to you. And if anybody has any questions.
Thanks, Julie. Great presentation. Thank you for all your hard work. Anybody up here on council have any questions for Julie?
Just a thank you. I had read, I think it was in the Plain Dealer about like, why are we not using the concentrated vinegar? And that was one of my questions, but you answered that. And thank you so much for explaining it. I really appreciate you.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul. Anybody on Zoom? Jake, you have a question?
Yeah, hi. Julie, wondering if you could share the resources that are available to individuals if they identify some invasive outbreaks on their own property.
Well, the first thing I can share with you is that I have put a little presentation on the Ridgway County website under the vegetation management section that if you look at scroll down, I think it's about halfway down. It says Weeds of Ridgway County. You know, I made that presentation because it can be difficult with the literature that is available to find a very close-up picture of what you're looking at. It's a work in progress, and I'm working on it and trying to add more pictures and just make it even better than it is right now. But that's where you start. You know, if you have a weed infestation, you can call me at the county. The number there is 626-9775 extension 7. And I, free of charge, will come out and identify what is on your property. And then we can talk about, you know, how you can work to control it. And the county is now, as of this year, offering services on private property. If you would like those services, you can call me and ask for more details on that one.
Does that work for you, Jake?
Yep, thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much, Julie. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie. All right, that takes us to item number 14. We have our last 2 audience members here for review and approval of updated Ridgway Visitor Center and Heritage Park Master Plan and review and direction on implementation plan for Ridgway Visitor Center and Heritage Park Master Plan. Welcome to Tara Wick, the Community Initiatives Facilitator.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Thank you, councilors. It's really wonderful to see you all. I think Preston's pulling up our presentation. So you've had this plan before you in earlier iterations a number of times. So the plan itself, this is a master plan of Heritage Park and Visitor Center. Compared to the last plan you saw, there aren't substantial changes. Thank you, that's great. But I did want to just highlight some of the high points for councilors who just may want a refresher or who maybe weren't on council yet when we last looked at this plan. And then we also, Preston and I worked together on an implementation plan that's kind of a new version of what the previous community initiatives facilitator had drafted. So now that we have some solid cost estimates from DHM Designs who did this for us, we thought through how we might be able to stage that spending out over a number of years. This has been a project that's been important to the community for some time and to the council, so it's an investment, but we think it's a substantial investment, but we also think it's important to the town overall. So we're just going to go through that. So I've just sort of highlighted the pieces of the plan here. There's a number of elements, overall purpose of the plan, base map, and master site design, and phasing priorities, a lot of images and cost estimates, as well as funding options that are all in there. I won't be going over all of those in detail. The overall project purpose is really just to get a vision from the community of where we wanted to go with this piece of property that's at the entrance to our town. The goals there, I don't need to review with you in detail, but really wanting this to be a place that attracts visitors year round. We wanted to make sure there were ADA accessible bathrooms that are available to visitors, regardless of whether there are volunteers in the visitor center, to have it be a place where people might want to stop and also learn about our area. Residents who've been giving input on this project for a number of years have asked that there be a focus on youth heritage as well. And so we've thought through how to practically implement that. And really also, I just want to say, just kind of be an aesthetic and welcoming entrance to our town that really kind of shows off our town and that kind of communicates our town's values and information about our community as people are entering into the community. There have been a number of iterations of public input. We had an initial round of public input, I think back in 2020, Preston, I'm looking at you, I'm trying to remember. After that, the boxcars, the train cars were removed from the property, which opened up sort of an opportunity for a changed thematic focus in terms of heritage. Those were moved over to the Railroad Museum. And so there was another round of public input that I helped to facilitate. And so those summary of those findings are here. People really wanted to see, again, something that was welcoming, that kind of said like, welcome to Ridgway. We wanted something that could help people understand the beautiful peaks and the incredible vista that's around there. And that could also be a place for gatherings, community and cultural events. And again, a continued desire to have some focus on the heritage of the Indigenous folks who've lived in this area for hundreds of years. There's a summary of the main features of the site. So a new gateway sign for Ridgway, a photo opportunity area. I mean, obviously the mountains themselves are a wonderful photo opportunity area, but something that kind of draws people in. Interpretive signs again for the mountains. We'd really love to see kind of an emblematic sculpture in that place. And again, it's an opportunity to be able to have something iconic in our community as people are coming in. And so the idea that's come up before is to have that something also in partnership with Indigenous communities to be able to perhaps have something interpretive around the tribes that have lived here, or maybe something that's an Indigenous artist. We don't know yet, but there's space there for a big piece of public art. The visitor center with a shade structure, something that kind of echoes Hartwell Park. So we have some kind of design continuity across the community. Xeric plantings that are responsible in terms of water use, informational signings, climbing boulder, and interpretive information around the Bruneau Agreement. One of the things we learned in the research process around the U heritage in Ridgway was that this particular site is actually the northern survey line of the Bruneau Agreement from 1874, and another kind of congressional act related to that agreement with the U tribes back at that time. So we thought it would make sense to have information there about a piece of our hidden history that's not well known. And again, ADA restrooms, a new visitor center sign, and then delineation in that parking lot at minimum, so that parking is happening in a more efficient manner. So there's a picture of the visitor center as it's been designed by DHM Designs. I think that's probably been seen by folks before, wanting to make sure we give people an opportunity to get up and see the mountains, reusing some shipping containers, and also have photovoltaic panels on the top of that, so that we're also kind of modeling the type of resource use that we want to have in our community. We have designed some informational signs to really focus on some of the aspects of the community and the region that we like to inform visitors about. Some new gateway signs and visitor information signs showing the amenities of the site.
benches, plantings, climbing boulder, water faucets, just to kind of give you a sense there. And then there's kind of a summary of the Bruno agreement that we would like to invite partnership with the tribes to develop some narrative interpretive information about if they're willing and interested in doing that with us. So there's there's a site map. And then we also have a cost estimate. So there was a cost estimate from DHM Designs, and we took a look at that and also recognized there was a few other pieces that we wanted to add into this cost estimate, including the photovoltaic panels, which he did some research for us on, but he didn't include it in the original price estimate. He had held it aside, but our sense from the council was that was something that was important to council. So we decided to include it in the cost estimate, as well as some resources to do relationship building with the indigenous tribes, some community outreach and engagement around the process and educating and celebrating along the way, as well as some fencing and I think a couple of other minor items. So the implementation plan that we laid out, kind of these are like the big milestones, and you'll see a full description in your packet. 2023, we have been in conversation with Colorado Main Street and Department of Local Affairs around developing some construction documents and design documents. We see that as the first step. Our estimate of that and the estimate that DHM Designs came up with for us are pretty different. So the orders of magnitude different. And so we would like to learn more about what is all included in that estimate, and we may need to do more fundraising for that. We're not quite sure what DOLA can cover for us with that, but that's obviously the first step. We'd also like to put in fencing in fairly short order and start to develop relationships with the tribes and request their consultation around some of the interpretive information, knowing that that is just going to move at the pace of the relationship. So we thought we'd just get started on that part. And obviously fundraising, this entire pretty big project will be contingent on successful fundraising. So that's going to need to be the first order of business. 2024, there's some potential resources for a climbing boulder that we might be able to inherit from another community. So we moved that up as a possibility. Continued relationship building, planning and engagement, and fundraising. So we really see the next year or two as developing more detailed construction plans and fundraising, knowing that this is a large investment for the community. It's going to take time to raise the money. And then we thought about staging this out because it is such a big ticket item. And the more we looked at it and went back and forth, it's with the cost of mobilizing all of the workers and the contractors, it really wasn't responsible to stage it out because it just wouldn't be efficient cost-wise with the public dollars. So we thought, let's fundraise for it and then let's do it all at once, so that we're doing that as efficiently as possible. We don't know if this is a realistic timeline. Time will tell to see what money is available. But we would like to ideally start construction in 2025 and build the visitor center, demolish the old visitor center, build the new one, put in all the hardscaping and features, that kind of thing. And then in 2026, that would be kind of the finished work around the landscaping, signage, that type of thing. And probably that's when the interpretive information would be finalized and installed as well. So multi-year project. Obviously this is there's some guesswork involved and some finger crossing involved, but this is our best estimate based on the good research at the DHM Designs.
Yeah.
That was a lot. Questions, thoughts, comments?
I don't know what how I missed it, but I was really excited to see that how the visitor center draft plan echoes the town park stage.
Yeah,
that's a really cool idea. And then some of the signage echoes the bollards around town. I just love that DHM had the brainstorm to carry those themes out.
I actually have to give credit to the residents who participated in the process, really actually advocated strongly that there be like a design cohesiveness across our different.
I just don't remember the stage being.
I don't think that was part of the original concept. Yeah,
so DHM came up with that.
They came up with that in response to resident input.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm really excited. I know this is a big ticket thing. I was trying to remember where I got an email sometime last year from somebody who said there's an opportunity to get a climbing boulder for free, and I can't remember what came of that or whether it went away or not. So hopefully that's still in play. And I know this is a lot of money, but there's a lot of grant funds out there. So hopefully we can make it. Anybody else have questions or comments for?
I guess the only question I had was, so you're looking at doing all the construction in 2025, hopefully. So would that kind of make that whole area off limits during 2025?
That's a really good question. Now that you mentioned it, probably that.
I mean, I understand the concept you had of staging things out, and I understand the approach you're taking on it, but if it all happened at one time, it just kind of be off limits, there would not be a restroom there available at all. So.
But on the other hand, it's gonna grab your attention when there's a whole bunch of construction happening, and that gives us a few years to figure out how do we direct people to locations in town?
Right.
You know, like, in some ways, construction is clear that, oh, there is stuff
things are
happening in this place.
I think there could be some opportunities for some minor staging and phasing within that summer. Bathroom certainly would be nice to have first.
Right.
But I think that's a good point just to have on the list. to
Yeah, just
explore.
something to think through as you're
Right.
progressing down the road, yeah.
Right, because I think that the way that the design is, the bathrooms would be located in, let's see if I can.
Kind of right where the
There.
existing visitor center is.
Right, so right there, number one would be the new bathrooms that would be ADA accessible, so we need to demolish the existing visitor center, put that in. So that might make sense as a first step, and then start building the other one. We didn't really get into that level of fine detail around the staging, but I think that's a really good point. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Yeah, if I can just jump into the implementation plan that Tara largely put together or modified from what Deidre put together a while back. It was a great go. It's a guide for you all, right? To inform capital project planning coming up in subsequent years. So it's not set in stone by any means. This is gonna change. It all depends, like as Tara was saying, on fundraising efforts and priorities year to year. So it's a puzzle, right?
And we tried to design it in such a way that the council could use it as a tool, and we could kind of move things around and see how that's going to hit the bottom line year by year as a budget planning tool. So please, know that it's our best effort, but also I defer to your sense and good judgment around how we prioritize with limited resources. So,
Right.
The only thing that I thought of during all of this is it was like unisex restrooms. Can I just gently urge that it's gender neutral restrooms? Just because if we want to be inclusive and not, other human beings in our community, I think that would be a good option. Just to,
I think that Denver, just as an aside, has, and I know other municipalities and states around the country have policies in place that any single stall restroom is a gender neutral restroom, regardless. And that's actually that's the best practices for the National Building Code as well. So something that the council might consider in the future, just in general. I think that's like appropriate modern language. Appreciate that.
I know it's like nitty gritty, but
it's not, it's not really that. So thank you. And I also wanted to point out, I forgot one, since it's Heritage Park and there's different types of heritage that we're trying to honor within the park. Another piece that I felt like was really skillful is an inlay of railroad tracks that kind of go through the park. So it's a nice recognition of the railroad heritage that also helped to shape our community so profoundly. So just wanted to point that piece out. Other thoughts, questions?
Thanks. Any questions or comments on Zoom? Anybody on the Zoom audience? Seeing no hands. Thank you. Great presentation. That was great. Excited.
Thank you.
So we do need formal action to adopt the updated Heritage Ridgway Visitor Center and Heritage Park Master Plan, which was updated to reflect a new site plan and the whole nine. So that is the only action before you all, but we did want to share the implementation plan.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Someone want to make that motion?
I move to approve the updated Ridgway Visitor Center and Heritage Park Master Plan.
Second. Motion by Russ, seconded by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, ladies. That takes us to discussion and direction regarding requests from the Preserve PUD development team. Looks like Preston, you're taking this one.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So the Preserve PUD development team has submitted to the town a memo highlighting several of the conditions associated with the Preserve PUD preliminary plat approval granted in March of 2018 and extended on in March of 2020 and again in January of this year, 2022. That memo is attached to the staff report in the packet, and the staff report attempts to provide a thorough background on this proposed development. As we know, it hasn't been at the forefront for a while, and it details, or at least we think it does, how we've gotten to this point. So back in June, the Board of County Commissioners considered the access approval for the south end of Preserve Drive on Dalwhinnie property that's located to the south of the Ridgway town boundary. The dedication of County Road 23 from Preserve Drive to the town boundary. One of the conditions, I believe it's number 10, dedication of an easement for Preserve Drive and recreation path easement on the Dalwhinnie property. Condition 11, and the process for county approval of the paved road design from the south end of Preserve Drive to the town boundary. That's listed as condition 12. The county commissioners felt, and I was not there, this is from the words of Mr. Chris Hawkins, the authorized agent for the developer, felt the cleanest path to meet the county approval conditions is for the town to annex the Dalwhinnie property and County Road 23, so the county does not need to be involved. If annexation is unsupported by the town, the county commissioners indicated it may consider a universal three-party right-of-way easement with Dalwhinnie, Ridgway County, and the town of Ridgway that would provide for several things further described in the staff report. So the developers requested this work session for council to provide direction on two specific items. The first one being is annexation or a right-of-way easement agreement, the preferred option to address the county's responses to the approval conditions listed and the ones I just described. The applicant is also requesting the town to consider the relocation of the lift station to Dalwhinnie property outside of the town boundary in the unincorporated area of Ridgway County to meet the new setback requirements from CDPHE. The memo, the staff report before you depicts staff's recommendations and some thoughts for you all to consider. Happy to go into that in more detail. Joanne Fagan, the town engineer, is also on and provide some more information and context. And we do have Chris Hawkins and maybe others from the development team here on Zoom to talk from that side.
All right, first off, any questions from council or staff on this item? If not, I'll give Chris Hawkins or some other member of the team an opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Honor. Appreciate the chance to present this evening. So these three conditions are what made us basically go talk to the Board of County Commissioners. Condition 10, 11, and 12 of the preliminary plat and PUD approval. What 10 and 11 are really focused solely on the private property on Dalwhinnie property concerning an access and utility easement. And then condition 12 deals with repaving County Road 3 all the way up to the south loop of the subdivision and getting the county approval to pave County Road 23. So we did go in front of the board and have that work session. We're in agreement with staff in terms of the annexation. We knew that was, most likely going to be the response. The town has been fairly consistent with that approach. This is the same map we presented to BOCC, and in light of that direction, and understanding that the council probably does not support that approach, but maybe it's different. I don't know. What is out there, for your consideration tonight is primarily the most important part is getting everyone on board with how we get the subdivision done. And that idea, in this red part is the right of way, the approximate right of way outside the town boundary, this red color. So this is the part that would have to be brought into the town and as part of the right of way dedication, at least. So while it wouldn't be annexed, at least there would be a right of way that goes out to about this part right here. Hopefully you can see my mouse pointer, and then would go back in, but this would be dedicated to the town, all that kind of red area. And the town would be responsible for the maintenance of that portion of the road. I think that was probably always contemplated with the subdivision. The other part of the approval was looking at this area on the Dalwhinnie property in this green color. And this is getting the approval of the county for this access easement. And it's also utility easement as well as the rec path out here. So in light, this is a little bit closer in zoom. Sorry, I should have done this sooner, just so you can see it. And just I want to point out, here's the current town approved location for the lift station right here. In hindsight, this probably wasn't the best location because it's by properties. And as we all know, with the sewer lagoons, there's setbacks to lift stations too. And unfortunately, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment increased this setback from when this was approved. And so if the lift station stays here, several of these lots would have to be eliminated. And so what we're proposing to both the town primarily now and the county is the pump station get relocated to someplace out in here where it's outside of the floodplain. And it really, we don't think it's a very big deviation from what's already been approved. The town has already approved infrastructure out in the unincorporated county per the approved preliminary plat. Here's the sewer main that actually goes out and has a manhole in the unincorporated county. Here's the lift station site. And this is about 40 feet out into the county. And our site is, I believe, about 100 feet up from here, maybe a little bit more. The town's also approved the water line outside, and it's a looped water line. I'll show the bottom part of this in a minute. The access drive, which is actually already constructed. Can you see the aerial photo?
No.
Yeah.
We're just seeing the plan.
I always have to ask that question with Zoom, so thank you. So here's the kind of the rough graded road as already approved and constructed. So this is out there. The water line has been installed as part of this loop because it comes over from Solar Ranches out here and crosses into this area. I'm going to flip back to the PDF now, so please let me know if you can see my presentation again.
Not yet. Yeah, now we can.
Thank you. And here's the water line coming back around and then up headed towards Solar Ranch. Again, all this is out in the unincorporated county. And also the drainage infrastructure is out in the unincorporated county. The road itself, I think, is fairly obvious. And then the recreation path. So there's been a lot of approval for infrastructure already out here, and simply relocating the lift station here to here is, it solves the setback issue, but I think everyone on council probably understands that having, these types of facilities helps improve, at least from the Department of Health's perspective, public health overall. And so again, we think it's a modest change since the sewer line already extends out here just to go out in here. And that will allow, these lots to stay mostly the same. So that's at least the concept overall. And one thing we did find in this process is that the town of Ridgway and the or had already negotiated out this general road and utility easement agreement. This is referenced in condition number 11. And it already acknowledges that there's road and utilities easements that have to be provided on the Dalwhinnie property, as I've already outlined in the approved development plan. So simply adding a lift station into this is not a big leap of faith. It's not a big change from big picture of the development. And this was where it was really mentioned, this, related completion of the requested edits to the general road and utility easement agreement, inclusion of a dedication of recreation path easement to continue along County Road 23 through Preserve Drive. Staff recommends securing this easement agreement as soon as possible and before final plat. So there's a clear contemplation of all of these utilities, including the sewer line and hopefully the lift station, if you so generally agree in this work session. I know we'll have to come back for probably some sort of amendment to the plat. So at least the temporary right-of-way easement agreement concept, I want to explain this a little bit more. It's temporary. It's between the Uray County, the town, and Dalwhinnie. It allows the construction of County Road 23 right-of-way with town oversight on construction and civil design. It allows for the general road and utility easement agreement, which I just went through, to be basically amended and perfected, and we can get that recorded prior to the final plat as desired by the town, with the permitted utilities and lift station. And it would commit the town to accepting the right of way and associated road maintenance. That's important to the county since this is a town project. And then the final plat would actually have the dedication of the right of way on it with signatures, I'm guessing, by the county and the town. Dalwhinnie kind of acknowledging the formal dedication of the right of way and any associated easement. So hopefully this provided a little bit more background. Look forward to hearing your thoughts and direction, and appreciate your time tonight. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. So it sounds to me like one suggested solution to this from the development team is annexation of that chunk shown on the drawings they submitted in this sort of pale green color. I'm not in favor of annexation if we can avoid it. I think I would be in favor of creating the easements necessary as long as the county agrees to that. I don't see a huge issue with moving the lift station, but we probably need Joanne's input on that. Anybody else have related or different questions?
That sounds like exactly. I was going to ask what staff's feeling was on the difference between the lift station being outside and other infrastructure being outside of the town boundaries, like why that distinction is being drawn.
So I'll jump in and excuse me, and then would love to hear from Joanne, but I think there's a pretty big difference between having a water and sewer main outside of the town boundary, which in all honesty, that is pretty low maintenance. Sometimes there's breaks and you got to get in there. Lift stations are a whole different ball game. You talk to anybody in public works, much more high maintenance. And I don't want to say you're going out there all the time, but they act up and there's issues and you got to repair, and things come up. So it's not apples to apples. And so that's why staff and the thought about being concerned about having that lift station out there, because you have to pay quite a bit of attention to it, maybe paying visits to it. Well, definitely paying visits to it a lot more frequently than water and sewer main. So Joanne has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Joanne.
That certainly we do spend a whole lot more time dealing with lift stations than regular mains. Water and sewer lines aren't subject to any kind of site approval, whereas the lift station is. If we need to make any kind of adjustments, It's a surface improvement. And it's subject to county regulations rather than town regulations. I'm really uncomfortable with having a lift station where we don't have land use control. And I've been looking to see what has changed about the setbacks. I don't know, Chris, if you can tell me, and looks like it's remained 250 feet for quite a while.
If it was 250 feet when this plat was approved, the design was already deficient when it was submitted and approved by the town. But Nick Barrett had told me the setbacks had changed, and unfortunately Nick's not on here. But it's just to answer the questions on control, the lift station would be within an easement that provides full access and control of that lift station. The county may have us do a conditional use permit out in the county, but that would be in perpetuity, and the easement would cover any maintenance as if it was in the town, including any facility repairs, expansions, enlargements, etc. We could guarantee the town concerns on it being out there being addressed. The easement's going to give full access, ownership, etc. of that facility via a perpetual easement. And then there's a lot of legalese that'll have to be worked out on the easement around that facility, but it's real similar to utility lines. There's a town easement for the water line, town easement for the sewer line. If those break or repair, the town can get in there and fix those. The same will be true with the lift station overall. But the land use authority, we will perfect through, I believe they're going to require us to go through a conditional use permit. And I think it wasn't 250 feet. I just got a text from Michael Lynch because of the capacity. The capacity of that station went up a little bit, but we'll get that clarified overall. So thank you.
Oh, let me see, those stations with 150 to 215 or 250 feet. One of the things you keep saying is that the town had approved it. This is one of the things that never got approved. It's one of the conditions that the town had a great deal of concern about going ahead with construction because you did not have site approval, and the state was saying the only way it could be that close to the houses was if expensive and high maintenance odor control equipment was installed, and the town wasn't interested in taking that on.
Okay, that's good to know, and I appreciate the background on that, Joanne. I wasn't obviously going back that far, but I think ideally if we could get it approved out in the county to where the mitigation isn't needed and it still addresses the town concerns in terms of access, maintenance, and full land use control and ownership, hopefully that solves a lot of your concerns for it.
Joanne, I guess my concern is with the fact that this is potentially a nuisance and having it be in the county where the county is going to be coming to talk to us it's better for it to be in town where we're the ones talking to ourselves.
That was a question.
Joanne, what kind of concerns do you have with following the county guidelines versus the town? What do you see? What kind of issues do you see with that for that lift station?
I don't know the county guidelines, so that would be a little bit hard to address. And it's, the water plant is in the county, and when we went to expand the water plant, that turned out to be a little bit of a challenge. And so I think that's part of what makes me hesitant. And that thing's not even a nuisance.
Right. Yeah, that's really the kind of dual ownership of, essentially that's how it would work. The county would have the overriding authority on it, even though we have an easement potentially.
Right, the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So
back then to us not being interested in annexation because it's outside of the urban growth boundary, does this justify considering that? Because then that would put this potential lift station within the town boundaries. Or so we could accept the county weirdness where it's not fully in our jurisdiction. We can say you can leave your lift station where it is. Or we could look more seriously at what the implications of annexation are.
Yeah, that does seem to be the choice. I suppose, I don't know. I see Bo's on here. Bo, do you have any input on ramifications of considering a small annexation like this to deal with these construction challenges? Are there any unforeseen gotchas that we're not thinking of, that you can think of? If you're listening, Bo. Might not be listening. Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm kind of leaning towards us needing to take this under advisement, have staff go back, talk to have Bo and Preston and Joanne, possibly meet with a county commissioner or two, and first just meet amongst themselves and talk about what the ramifications are of actually annexing this small piece. And then if there's roadblocks to that, then go into the county and see what we can work out in terms of an agreement that would address our concerns there. My feeling is I don't think we're going to fix this tonight.
I have read this multiple times over the last few days, and each time I read it, I have more questions just about the whole thing. And yeah, it might be a little bit more discussion.
Yeah, I remember when this first was before us and platted and everything, and then the solution of having the road go out into the county and around, and the water lines and the sewer lines looping. We obviously didn't feel like it was ideal, but it was a way to deal with the access issues and the need for looping. Honestly, when I was looking at it, I'd forgotten that we've got that funny little triangle that's not actually within the town boundary that includes County Road 23 in that red section. So that was kind of an interesting thing I'd forgotten about. But again, I'm not sure we can. I think we need more information before we can make a decision on this.
Okay. Yes. I appreciate the time and that you need more, information on it. Just the annexation part, from my experience on doing numerous annexations, is that you can annex this and basically it's no development. So there's no urban growth, so to speak, out there beyond what you've already approved, with the exception of a small lift station. And that would certainly address your concerns over town control, over land use. And it would also address the BOCC concerns over why are they even involved? I mean, it was a very unique hearing in that it was a lot of like, how did we get to this point and not have a conversation about this?
Right. I think there were conversations back then, but it's been 10 years or so. Jake, I see you.
Were you calling on me?
Yes.
Okay. So just going from memory on this, I didn't re-review this. This I think was a couple of months ago, but one of the questions I remember having is why is the town not in favor of annexation? We played with the different options, and it looked like annexation was the simplest, most elegant solution, so that the developer didn't have to be going through a dual town and county process. But we understood that the town didn't want to annex, but we didn't have an answer as to why. So I'm wondering why you're not wanting to annex.
That's what we just tried to ask Bo, and we.
Yeah.
And a lot of it would have to do with the fact that it's outside of our urban growth boundary. I mean.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Did you hear that, James?
And so would that mean that we would need to just modify that UGMA, that IGA agreement a little bit, just by enough of the annexation?
Probably, yeah. I think that, I think a couple of, it would be some process. My concern is that any annexation has to be considered really, really carefully and thoughtfully, but it does start to seem like that possibly the cleanest solution to this challenge. But yeah, I think on a parallel track, we have to modify the as you called it, and I don't think that's a huge deal, especially for the reasons that we're doing it and what a small parcel it is. So again, I think what we're finding there's consensus on here tonight is that this needs to be looked at a little closer, and we need to reconsider the annexation option and look at what that would require in terms of parallel amendments to existing boundaries. And
I think the other piece that needs to be looked at is what is actually the CDPHE guidelines around the lift station, because it seems that Joanne and the developer have some different takes on that one.
Yeah, I think what Joanne pointed out though is that town never signed off on that location where it is now in the first place, and the town isn't interested in the increased owner management technology that requires it for it to be that close to existing lots. So I think it's pretty clear.
No, yeah, and personally, I wouldn't want to take on something that was more complicated than a lift station already is.
And I guess the other thing that we need to consider in this is with the development of another lift station out there, what are the implications as far as our public works staffing and an ability to support that?
Well, I mean, I don't remember how many lots this is, but that's gonna be a chunk of tap fees towards capital too.
And the additional lots also will pay a higher cost to tap in for like other lift stations in the town, is my understanding as well. So they're all good questions. And if I could just ask, because we have a clock going, as you know, we're really trying to get this out of the ground. It took us 3 months to get in front of the board, 2 months to get in front of council. And we're almost 6 months just trying to have a conversation about this, let alone get the other conditions addressed. We're on a parallel track to amend the plans to meet the new specifications at the request of Joanne, and so we can get it out to bid with our goal to start construction next spring. So we've got to move fairly quickly on a lot of fronts.
Okay, well, I think what you're hearing is that town staff will sit down and at our direction, look more closely at the annexation option, the pros and cons of that, whether the other alternative of negotiating some sort of easement / conditional use permit with the county is still the preferred option from the town staff's perspective, and then come back to us hopefully next month.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Can I add one final thought?
Sure.
So if it is necessary to modify that IGA with the county on that urban growth boundary, the county just got exercise doing that with the city. This would be a substantially more simple modification to just move a line a little bit. And it would seem to be much simpler to do that, at least from the county's perspective. I don't know what's going to be involved with annexation for the town, but I know that from the county end, it would be simpler to modify that IGA to move that line and to allow annexation than it would be to have these easement agreements.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Thank you. And it's helpful to have, I mean, you only are one commissioner, but it's helpful to have your take on that. So thank you. Any other comments, questions on this one? Staff have enough direction?
Good, good.
Okay, so no further action needed, right?
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Chris. Anybody else on Zoom have a comment or question? Just give you 1 minute or opportunity. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is item number 16, resolution number 2020, pardon me, resolution number 22-08, amending Town of Ridgway standard specification and typical drawings for infrastructure construction.
Thank you, Mayor. So a number of updates are being proposed for incorporation into the Town of Ridgway standard specifications and typical drawings for infrastructure construction. The updates are detailed in the memo and also in the exhibits to the resolution. They pretty much mirror each other. Joanne was finally able to devote some time to getting the standards updated, which is great. That work was identified as a priority under Community Value 5, well-managed growth, in the 2022 strategic plan. So Joanne's here, obviously, and can answer any specific questions you guys have about the updates. So the action being requested of you all's approval of the resolution, approving the addendum and incorporation of these updates.
Thanks, Preston. Anybody on council have any comments or questions for Preston or Joanne? It's great to see this come through. I know it's been a long time coming. Thanks for your hard work on it, Joanne. Anything you want to add, Joanne?
First, this isn't the big lift.
I know, just the first step.
I still have to do the road stuff. And then I have it a typo midway down the second page, I think. Yeah. The casing pipe section 02713, page 5. The pipe for the casing should be an SDR 41, not a 45.
All right, well, let the
I can find it for Pam and Preston.
Yeah, let the minutes reflect that typo needs to be fixed, but I'm not seeing it. I'll take your word for it. Anything else? All right, thanks, Joanne.
Thank you.
This is a good first step. These are all, it may feel like a baby step to you, but we appreciate it.
And again, the intent of all this is just to make things easier with our developers.
More clear, straightforward, yep.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
I believe we need a motion to.
I move to approve resolution number 22-08, a resolution of the town council in the town of Ridgway, Colorado, amending the town of Ridgway standard specification and typical drawings for infrastructure construction.
Second.
Pause there, unusual pause. Motion made by Russ, second by Kevin. All in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to item number 17, review and action on employment agreement for municipal court judge services with Lane Thomason, Erie County Court Judge in the 7th Judicial District. Bo, are you on?
I am. Good evening, Mayor.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. So included in the packet is a proposed employment agreement for the appointment of Lane Thompson with the town of Ridgway for her to serve as the municipal court judge and administrative hearing officer for the town. This mirrors the previous employment agreements that we've had in place for Judge Jackson and
Judge Martin.
Yes, thank you. Late. As you know, Mayor, we had the opportunity to interview Lane in August. I think it would be my recommendation to the council that she be hired for the position. She is also serving as the City of Uray municipal judge and was appointed by the governor as the Uray County Court Judge in May of this year.
Great, thanks, Bo. This one's pretty straightforward. We need a municipal judge, and the standard procedure for years has been whoever the county judge is takes on both the city of Uray and the town of Ridgway's municipal court duties, just because it makes sense having them in the county, and it's happened with the last many judges. So any comments or questions from council for staff or for Bo?
No. It'd be good to have a judgment.
Here come the judge. Here come the judge. So if someone might want to make a motion. Wait, before we do that, anybody on Zoom have any comments or questions about this? Don't see any hands in the air. Okay, go ahead.
Move to action the employment agreement for municipal court judge services with Lane Thompson, Uray County Court Judge in the 7th Judicial District.
Second.
All right, motion made by Russ, seconded by Polly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 18, consideration and action on compensation adjustment for town manager. It's got my name on it. As you all know, and probably some of the public knows as well, we had an executive session to review Preston's performance evaluation last week, and I'm happy to report that he passed with flying colors. And at this point, I think we need to discuss compensation adjustment, but I think I actually don't have that in front of me. Does anybody have that in front of me? I can bring it up.
Oh,
The
Salary
chart,
matrix?
yeah.
Did we?
So we talked about going to step 2,
Yeah, actually,
retroactive.
there it is. I have it. So it's referring to the town of Ridgway, Colorado step salary structure, which we adopted last year. Sometime last
January 1.
Yeah, it was part of the budget process. Prior to Preston's evaluation this year, which, by the way, I need to point out, should have happened back in January, but it's now happening in August and September. He wasn't even at step 1 on this step salary structure. So it's my feeling, and I think there would probably be agreement here at council, that it would make sense to take him up to step 2, which is a salary of $120,347, and have that go into effect retroactively to, did we decide January 1st? Or did we talk about January 1st? We didn't decide that. And so any further comment or discussion on that?
No, I think that's
Still
right.
works.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we need a motion to that effect.
I move to place Preston at step 2 at the town managerial level and pay that retroactive to January 1, 2020. 2022, sorry. It's after 8, I've turned into a pumpkin.
Whatever year this is.
Don't tell Jessica I said that.
Seconded.
Thank you, Kevin. Motion made by Beth, seconded by Kevin. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, and thanks for your great work, Preston. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for all you do.
Absolutely. All right, that takes us to written and verbal reports. We've got the town manager's report in front of us. Anything you want to highlight there, Preston?
Something that wasn't included in there was some info about the special planning commission meeting next Thursday. Russ and John already know about that. That will be a couple hour session, maybe not even that long, for TJ and one of his associates, Katie, to present the scope of the updates to Chapter 7 of the municipal code. Chapter 7 is planning and zoning. So once everyone, well, the thought is to convey that scope to planning commission, and then once everyone's on the same page and in agreement, in line, TJ and his crew will begin undertaking the work. They'll also present some really cool documents that he's put together that it's meant to depict and make more clear the development review process for developers. There's an external document and there's an internal one too that really helps staff as well. So they've already made great strides, and that will be presented next. It's already next Thursday.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
So I want to mention that the Urea County Workforce Transportation Project, the update there, I think you guys already know this. The funding was awarded at the last GVTPR meeting. Big deal and great news. Mayor Clark and I met with folks with the city and the county to start, and All Points Transit to start talking about next steps and the purchase of that ADA accessible van. So servicing can start after the first of the year. I think we're looking at April, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Like April of 2023. So really cool pilot program, and really appreciative of the funding there and then the left funding. Ridgway Space to Create, it's no secret, coming online soon. Construction is in the home stretch. I would say there's still plenty to do, but I was visiting with Andrew Michelson yesterday. Didn't even know he was in town. He just shows up out of the blue, and it was great to visit with him, and he gave an update on the application process. I think today we received some emails from Greg, John, and they're in the process of awarding some of the units to some of the folks who got through the entire compliance process, including third-party review. So big deal. Some of those units are starting to get earmarked to people. So and there's plenty more applications to continue through that compliance process. So
yeah, and if anybody asks, that the application process is ongoing. The application is open. Anybody can apply anytime. I think probably the thing we're all dealing with is just kind of surprised that we don't like that 30+ approved applicants already waiting to get in. Obviously, there's complications with the levels of AMI. There's also, because this is LIHTC funding, there's extremely detailed financial information being requested by the applicant. I think that a lot of the applicants are finding that kind of onerous, but it's just the nature of the beast when you're getting quite reduced rent on a brand new unit like this. So just tell your friends, anybody that asks, go to, I think it's artspace.org/Ridgway or something as simple as that. You can also go to the town website and access the application from there. But the process is ongoing. There are going to be people being offered units starting within days and continuing over time. Last I heard, they were thinking of trying to start occupying the first 2 floors fairly early in October.
Yep, that's right.
And then occupying the 3rd floor, getting a temporary CO. There's some issues, supply chain issues with some fire protection equipment that's been like 14 months getting here and still not here. So anyway, I think they're doing everything they can to get people, start getting people in there, but the process is ongoing. There's no reason that people can't still apply if they're interested. So, are we? Sorry.
Disconnected to people moving in, do we have any update on Laura Street getting reopened?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, I'll just self-servingly ask the question.
At least you're honest.
So it was like reopened, it got to a point where they didn't want to request an extension on that. It was reopened to one way, but some of the, based on some of the work they still need to do, it still had to be closed off in intervals. And so
can we get the pedestrian walkway back?
It was interesting to notice that they all of a sudden
They
closed it
closed the
completely.
sidewalk too.
Let me tell you, I had a really sad old dog who had to walk an extra half block to get home one day.
I will, I'll call Brian in the morning and see if they can just move that so that the pedestrians can get through. Myself included.
Yeah, and hopefully that, that we understand that they have to close it occasionally, but it certainly the last couple of weeks or week plus, it seems like
It's been like, yeah.
they just kept.
Well, because it's both sides.
Yeah.
So you can't get in between Kate's and Space to Create or on Laura Street. So it is. Walking is nice. If you can't have vehicle access, okay, fine.
No,
Yeah,
so-
we'll talk to Brian.
Okay.
Couple more, just want to highlight real quick. And if y'all have any questions, let me know. Main Street North project shaping up nicely. Russ, and I see Krista on here, rolling their eyes. Behind schedule, but it is shaping up nicely and they're working hard. I'm going to give a shout out to John McCollum with Ridgway Valley. Second hardest worker I've ever seen in my entire life, second to Andy Barnes. So remember I said that, John, but Russ, I know you already put your initials in that sidewalk.
I have not. No, not yet.
So
I just poured some today.
right. With the rain, I think they couldn't do their pour in the afternoon, but asphalt, I think, is scheduled for
Next
coming
week.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
That's what they were telling me.
So they're motoring. The next tri agency dinner is on October 27th. That's a Thursday. Just a reminder. Chantal Unthug with the Division of Local Government was kind enough to accept the invitation to be the guest speaker. So exciting. The time has come to set the next adopt a highway cleanup. So not to really decide anything tonight if you don't want, but as a reminder, the commitment is at least 2 times a year. We're done one in September.
We need to get another one in for the snowflies, yeah.
Maybe we could put a call out for additional volunteers or any groups in the community that might want to be.
It also
ready to
should
help.
go much faster than I think it did in the
So
spring.
you'd think, but
We found beer cans from 1994.
No, I found a World Cup 1989 Sprite can.
Oh,
So
hot diggity dog.
like,
Either we're more thorough than you did it before.
I think it hadn't been done in quite some time, but the fact of the matter remains with winds and everything, it's still going to be a big job. Hopefully not as big. But are we thinking weekend Saturday in October maybe?
Yeah.
how about, can we do October 8th? Because I know the 1st is busy here in town.
First is busy here in town.
The 8th is open for me.
The 8th is good for me.
Yeah, fortunately, it works for me too. Not good.
Well, hopefully we can get it done in
How's it work
time to
for
like
you,
come back and like maybe be looking at me. She's like, I don't feel like you leave me alone.
We'll have to beat the bushes at the Colorado Boy Cabin.
Yeah, absolutely.
I bet we could find some helpers there.
But I think we've had some, community members express that they wish it was cleaned up right after we did it. So I think there's interest in the community.
I'll have to reach out to Teddy here to help us.
Teddy would be into it.
So are we on for the 8th? Is
Tentatively on the 8th here.
that work for you, Preston?
Yeah.
Okay.
Should work.
You want to send out an invite?
I'll send out an invite. We thinking, what time do you think?
Did we do 10 to 2 last time? Or
It
9?
was 10.
I know it lasted a lot.
It's like 6 hours.
That's right.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean,
Start time 9, 10?
I was gonna say, let's do 9. I would, if,
I'd rather get there a little early.
rather get there a little earlier and like,
Okay, 9,
Yeah.
let's say 9 to 1 and cross our fingers that that works.
If we do kind of go out and round up volunteers, basically they just have to watch those videos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, good reminder.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see, what else? The DOH stuff was interesting. There's so much information there. It's pretty crazy. And then the great news on the the 23-24 VOCA grant. Thanks, Shane.
And we just received notice. We got.
Awesome. Great. That's awesome.
Yesterday.
That's awesome. I was sorry to miss the National Night Out thing. That looked like fun. Looked like you and Preston were having way too much fun.
That was such a stage.
Oh, come on, you guys are having a ball. Cool. Anything else? New vehicle I see?
Yeah.
It's a funny little, the way you took that picture, it's sort of like.
Yeah.
Sneaky, sorry.
Just trying to get another one and got that in my house.
It's all right. Just thought it's like the FBI view of the vehicle. Thank you for your update, Pam.
Pam, I think the last concert night for locals is kind of a like, oh, I need to be in town also. So it's a lower attendance, but I know I was like, oh, I can't leave. I haven't been to any other ones.
I can't hear.
Oh, I was saying that you were saying that most of the people at the last concert were locals. I think sometimes locals realize that, oh, July is over and I really need to go to this
Oh, I
concert.
don't think that's what happened at all. It was the weather. It was raining in other places, so people didn't come, and it turned out to just close, which was, I really had a great time.
That happens a lot. That happens a lot.
I had a great time.
Yeah, I had a good
They
time.
think it's raining here, but it's not.
I'm very interested in the highest number of tips were received for the last show. That's great.
That's great.
I heard universal feedback that this was the best year ever. In terms of just across the board, every band was hot, every band was fun. Everybody had a good time. It was just, so hats off to you again for all, even Deb just did a killer job. Thank you. Can't wait till next year. We've got budget meetings. I'm gonna put that Fuse strategic planning retreat on my calendar because I'd like to be present for part of that.
That is at Bruce and Vanessa Backer's house.
Out in Dallas Meadows?
Yep.
Okay.
From 9 till about 1 o'clock, I think.
Okay. Will you send me the address for that?
Absolutely.
Thanks. Anybody want to join Preston and I at the CML district meeting up in Uray on the 27th? Did you ask everybody about that, Preston?
No, I put it on there and, well, I'll have to leave early to get back to get here for the planning commission.
Is that the planning commission that night?
Yeah.
Dang it.
So that was started at 5. Well, that's meeting starts at 5:30. The district meeting starts at 4.
Yeah, so I'll have to leave early too.
I can be there because
Yeah.
I'm just down the road to be there by 4.
Can you refresh what that?
This, CML community or Colorado Municipal League, it's getting late. They do meetings all over the state. I think they do it twice a year. Spring and fall. Yeah, maybe just fall. I can't remember. But this is they do a meeting in every district, and we're District 10. Cool. Sometimes it's in Montrose. Sometimes I've seen it as far as Ways Junction or Gunnison. But this year it's in Uray. Cool. And it's just a chance that the actual CML executive director Kevin Ballmer's going to be there, talk about everything CML's doing, opportunity to ask them questions about how they can help us out. So not a huge deal.
And each community goes around and gives updates on what's going on in their community. So the one in Montrose last year, it was at Black Canyon Golf Course, and it was really well attended. It was a really cool event, and you can go outside to give the update. And I always remember everyone was like, "Who is this guy?" But it's interesting to hear what's going on in all the communities. So.
Cool. And it's a great way to just kind of rub elbows with other regional municipal elected officials and whatnot.
I'll put it on the calendar.
It being in Uray is awesome because like during the week is real hard for me, but 4 o'clock in Uray, I can pull that
You
off.
just walk down the street. Yeah. Cool. Anything other than Jim's joke?
Or you can knock out this executive session.
Yeah.
So real quick, Beth, I'll get you registered for that.
I think it's amazing. I really appreciate that. Okay, cool.
And would you register me as well?
Sure.
Me too, please.
Awesome. Awesome. You and I have to carpool because we'll have to leave early. It's a bummer. Okay,
Next year we'll take the bus.
there you go.
We'll be here next year.
Who knows where it'll be next year. Everybody take note of the budget schedule meetings and whatnot. And then that takes us to, well, before we go to executive session, does anybody have any committee reports?
I do, actually. Sorry, it'll be super quick.
sorry,
I met with the Parks and Open Spaces Committee, and we had a very good presentation about adding pickleball courts. And I just kind of wanted to put it on the radar. There's thoughts of adding pickleball courts. It would kind of be in, actually have this pulled up. There's some options for where they were thinking about it. Their original idea is at the athletic park and kind of like just right, Preston, it was like right here, right? That they were thinking, or like taking over a lot of this area. It was also, sorry, my hair. So like here are the bathrooms.
There's the undeveloped area next to the skate park and the tennis courts.
Yep.
At one point that was earmarked for another soccer field, but I think, pretty sure the consensus is now that we don't necessarily need another soccer field. So that's an option. It's been discussed, just, you know, it's been discussed for years. There's been a lot of, in fact, for a couple of years there was sort of some butting heads between the tennis players and the pickleball players. They've worked out a schedule to where their days of the week, the tennis players know the pickleball players will be there and vice versa.
The saga continues, so.
Yeah,
it continues.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a need, but I keep telling them that you're gonna have to get some GoCo funding or something. You're gonna have to do the lion's share of the fundraising. It's not just our job to provide hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this.
And that was essentially what I told, what I tried to communicate effectively and kindly was get your funding in order. We're happy to consider doing it, but get your funding in order. That's on you.
Great.
So they're coming to council on October 12th to pitch the idea and lobby for it to be included somewhere on the capital, the 5-year or 10-year capital project. Capital improvement plan.
Okay. That's good. And I don't know, Preston, both of our reps on the new sustainability advisory board are absent. Is there anything you want to give?
Really great first meeting, a lot of passion and energy in that group. The next meeting is, if it were up to them, they'd meet 4 times a week at a minimum. That's a joke, but
Up to some.
Very passionate, eager. The next meeting's on October 5th. They are going to do like a rotating chair and vice chair. JT is the chair for the first upcoming quarter. I'm forgetting who the vice chair was. I have to look at my notes, but they're going to have their work cut out for them, identifying priorities and figuring out what we can really work on in this next year, make recommendations to you all during this budget cycle on what to focus on. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Anything else for us? Shane, everything? No. Okay. Bo, are you on there? We're ready for the.
Yeah, I'm on here. Just give me a second to get, I was getting off of mute, so.
Yep, no problem. Just so everybody on Zoom knows, we're about to go into executive session, so. You aware of that?
Talk about a dog park.
It's literally just like our.
Oh, Sits on the.
Yeah, it's out there.
That would be a battle royale between pickleball, tennis.
Amen.
Well, it wouldn't take as much money.
Water.
But then you have to discuss, are you gonna have a big dog side and a little dog side? And is Sprocket allowed in the old dog who doesn't want to be in any of them?
There needs to be an old dog side too.
He just stands and drools at dog parks, like he is tortured to take him to a dog park, he wants nothing to do with it. He's like, is there a brewery nearby, Mom?
Where are my friends? These four-legged things are not.
We're ready when you are.
Okay.
We got Tom still.
All right, if we could get a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 24-6-4024B for the purpose of receiving legal advice regarding the possible condemnation of 539 Marion Overlook Ridgway.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
It is September 14th and the time is 8:38 p.m. For the record, I am the town attorney. As required by the open meeting law, this executive session is being electronically recorded. Also present at this executive session are the following persons. I'll turn it over to the room.
John Clark. Just take
Russ Meyer.
Holly Kroger.
Kevin Grambley,
Beth Lakin.
Pam Craft.
Preston Neal.
Hey, Preston, who's Tom on Zoom?
That's Tom McKinney, probably. Tom, if you can hear us, you need to hop off now, please. And Liz, too, please. Liz.
Hello, Tom.
Tom, are you there? You could probably just disconnect and can. Very well. All right, so now I think it's just us, so we can all get off.
Okay, also present at this executive session are the following persons. Turn over to the room.
Start with you.
Can we just do Beth Lakin?
John Clark.
Russ Meyer.
Holly Kroger.
Kevin Grambley,
Pam Craft.
This is an executive session pursuant to 24-6-4024B for the purpose of receiving legal advice regarding the possible condemnation of 539 Marion Overlook Ridgway. I caution each participant to confine all discussions to the stated purpose of the executive session and that no formal action may occur in the executive session. If at any point in the executive session, any participant believes that the discussion is going outside the proper scope of the executive session, please interrupt the discussion and make an objection. As the town attorney, is my recommendation that the not be a recording of the executive session as it constitutes privileged attorney-client communication.
Thank you for staying, Pam.